It's another wonderful Wednesday. Thank you for making the time to join us on the AM show, where Bernice and I serve you the magic we're capable of every weekday morning. Thank you for making the time. So today, as always, we'll right after this hit you with the news. Parkweshi Sandorf is standing by. But after that, we bring you the news review, and we'll be joined by political scientist and director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asasanti. And boy, do I have a lot to run by him. Stay for that one. But right after that, we get into our big stories, and we're going to be talking about some 16 past and current judges of the superior courts who have been pointed to by the Auditor General for the purchase of vehicles contrary to Regulation 158 of the Public Financial Management Regulations 2019. That is LI 2378. Now, the details are stark. They are gory. We'll be getting into them and to find out whether, in fact, these judges, past and present, have erred. The Auditor General's report also evinces that 17.4 billion Ghana cedis in financial irregularities have happened and been flagged. This represents a 36% rise compared to that of the previous year, 2020. That is the conclusion reached by the Auditor General after an audit of the accounts of at least 101 institutions. Imagine that, 17 plus billion Ghana cedis. Where did all of that go? Well, we'll be joined by anti-graft campaigner Edem Senanu, who will be sharing his thoughts on this all-important matter. But on the second belt of our big stories, government has received a $750 million loan from the Afrexim Bank. Government is primarily looking forward to using this money to finance infrastructure projects. But what does this mean for our ailing economy? Will it change the fortunes of the cedi? We'll discuss these and more with our stakeholders. You don't want to miss that one. But today, being a Wednesday, we've got AM Business, courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. And today, my colleague James Ashen tells the story of the bookbinding industry, which risks collapse due to economic challenges we're facing. Well, also coming up this morning, we need to know the law, and it's all about the Law Challenge Project. You know about it this morning. We'll be telling you about the latest development in respect of that. Join us with your thoughts via social media. The hashtag is AMShow. Share your thoughts freely. And of course, at the tail end, if time suffices, we'll activate the phone lines. We'd love to hear from you. On that note, Ghana 4, and I hear a lot of you watchers even beyond the borders of Ghana. So wherever you are, thank you for making the time. Parkweshi Sandorf is next with the news.
It's a Wednesday morning. Welcome to the AM News here on the AM Show. My name is Parkweshi Sandorf. Now, the minority on Government Assurance Committee of Parliament is pushing back on claims that government is struggling to fix roads due to the lack of support for the e-levy. Roads and Highways Minister Kwesi Amoakwata appeared before the committee to provide an update on promises he made to members of parliament regarding some road constructions nationwide. The minister explained more roads will be fixed if Ghanaians supports the e-levy, which is currently doing less than 7% of government's target. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has more in the following report.
Government has touted the last few years as the years of roads and touted what they called a significant achievement in the sector. But government now admits there is still a lot of work to be done given the number of roads that are still in a terrible state. Roads and Highways Minister Kwesi Amoakwata says if Ghanaians supported the e-levy, more roads can be fixed.
Pay taxes and contribute to infrastructure, so that if we pay taxes like the e-levy which was introduced, if it's supported, one of the key areas for the e-levy was the road sector. So if it had been, for instance, supported and we could have, it could have helped. You understand?
The government has currently received less than 7% of the originally projected 6.9 billion cedis it intended to raise from the e-levy. Government has raised less than 100 million. The minister also admits the challenge is due to unreleased budgetary allocations.
Your statement is true. I want to confirm your statement that we all know that, we do not get all the releases, as per the appropriation that we passed, and because we know the challenges, and it's not limited to any particular government, it's not limited to any particular ministry.
But the NDC MPs on the Government Assurance Committee have been hitting back at the responses from the minister.
I don't think the minister even in the first place had to say that because he cancelled the road tolls. And so if he knew we needed money to do all these things, why did he even in the first place cancel the road tolls? I remember in December when I encountered him regarding my roads, he told me, that honorable member, that is why we are asking you to approve the e-levy for us. As we speak now, is the e-levy not approved? And so he didn't even have to talk about it.
I wasn't too much impressed. All borders on the fact that it is about funding. But our issue is not about funding, it's about promises made by he himself on the floor of the House, and whether those promises have been fulfilled or not, as in accordance with our standing orders. Now, if he has made a promise, it means that he knows that there's funding for it or there's no funding for it. For him to come back and ask for another assurance within assurance, what is the guarantee that funds will be made available? So I'm not impressed at all. We are not here to play. We are not here to also witch hunt. We are not here to lay the blame on any of the administration, but the e-levy has been passed. I mean, if he's talking about e-levy, it's been passed. So why is it not getting the funding for it? It means that government has not done its homework well. If government has done its homework well, they will not put all their eggs in one basket, which is called the e-levy.
Thank you.
He comes, try to give promises, but these promises are never adhered to. But let's hope that this time around the right thing will be done because he's meeting a committee.
They have specific concerns with the responses of the minister. They say they are going to push to ensure that all these promises he made on the floor of the House, as well as the promises he made here at the Government Assurance Committee, will be met. They are also not satisfied with the minister blaming the underperformance of the e-levy. They say, well, they told the government that e-levy wasn't going to perform so well. The Minister for Fisheries, Hawa Kumsin, and Local Government Minister Dan Botwe are expected to appear before the committee on Wednesday after failing to do so last week. For JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Accra.
Now, still in Parliament, Health Minister Kweku Agyeman-Manu was on Tuesday confronted with documents showing that the Bank of Ghana sought authorization from his ministry to pay an ambulance supplier. Mr. Manu had in his testimony insisted he was not aware of the existence of any document indicating such a request or approval by the Health Ministry was done during the John Dramani Mahama administration. All this played out when the Health Minister was cross-examined by lawyers for former Deputy Finance Minister Dr. Kesel Atu-Forson. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
Dr. Forson and two others are accused of causing a 2.3 million euros financial loss to the state in the procurement of ambulances. The health minister had earlier told the court a letter written by Dr. Forson asking the Bank of Ghana to issue letters of credit for the supplier is what resulted in payments contrary to the agreement. He insisted that the contract barred payment before delivery. The developments he had explained created a situation where defective vehicles were supplied even though monies had been paid. Dr. Forson's legal team, led by Dr. Abdul Basit Bamba, on Tuesday cross-examined the minister. They asked whether he was aware of the fact that the Bank of Ghana had requested authorization from the Health Ministry before such payments were made. Mr. Agyeman-Manu said he was unaware and had not cited any such documents since taking office in 2017. Hours later, he was confronted with a document showing a request from the Bank of Ghana to the Health Ministry for authorization. The minister admitted the letter showed a request but insisted Dr. Forson's earlier letter is what resulted in the establishment of the letters of credit. The minister is the fourth of the Attorney General's 5 witnesses and will be back in court on Thursday, September 1. The former Deputy Finance Minister's legal team is expected to complete the cross-examination to enable other defense lawyers undertake cross-examination as well.
Now, have you been experiencing a state of complete body immobility, yet you're widely awake and it is making you extremely anxious and depressed? Well, doctors say there is no cause for alarm. You are merely having sleep paralysis. Jesse Sewabuafo speaks to a doctor in the following report.
Sleep paralysis is transient inability to move or speak while falling asleep or upon waking up. According to medical experts, it is purely a natural episode in the rapid eye movement stage of sleep. Stress, inadequate and inconsistent sleep patterns, and certain medications have been identified as possible causes. The general lack of knowledge about the experience, however, is causing some people to resort to unorthodox means of treatment. Others also attribute it to spiritual machinations. Here are some views from parts of Accra.
You are asleep and you feel like waking up, but you can't wake up. You can't even move your body.
It was frustrating. I wanted to get up so badly.
Someone was following me like a monster in a black. Use the word Jesus Christ on the person.
I have the assumption that there's a spiritual presence around and somebody's trying to cover me. And mostly I'm trying to say Jesus, and I'm not even able to utter a word.
To me, I think it's tiredness.
Doctors, however, explain that there's no cause for alarm. With enough rest, one can check the occurrence of sleep paralysis. Dr. Yain Fojo is a sleep specialist at the Brain and Mind Center at Abokobi. He talks about the stages of sleep.
There are two types of sleep. There's a non-rapid eye movement and there's a rapid eye movement sleep. In the rapid eye movement sleep, you have a couple of things that happen. 1, dreaming. 2, rapid eye movement. 3, for males, erections. 4, the brain is all over the place, including active dreaming. 5, muscle diaphragm movement. 6, complete paralysis of all the other external muscles. It is part of the rapid eye movement stage of sleep.
Dr. Fojo reassures that sleep paralysis is nothing spiritual.
So it is not that something is causing it. No, that is completely wrong. Just to reassure people, it's a normal state. It happens to everybody. There is no spiritual connotation to it at all.
Though experienced by all age groups, sleep paralysis is common in men. Jesse Sewabuafo reports for JoyNews.
Now, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, is strengthening its eye testing regimes to enhance safety on the roads. According to the authority, the present order, where staff without the necessary qualification administer the service, has proven ineffective. Therefore, beginning September 2022, all services requiring eye tests for applicants will be done by certified optometrists. Nanaya Ojiba has more in the following report.
The new eye testing regime hinges on Regulation 29 of the Road Traffic Regulation 2012, which requires all prospective applicants for driver's license to use the services of only registered optometrists or ophthalmologists and the designated facilities. The DVLA believes basic eye tests conducted by the authority over the years have not fully revealed eye defects of drivers.
The current administration of the eye tests has certain limitations, simply because it is done by the DVLA staff. And these are not people who have the right competences, knowledge and skills for undertaking the test to the level that will show certain eye challenges if a driver should have it. And of course, the basic test also, we have found out that does not give the full condition of a driver's eye.
Statistics from the National Road Safety Authority show 1,300 persons were killed in road accidents between January and June this year. Within the same period, 7,997 persons sustained various degrees of injury. Though the accidents are not linked directly with poor vision of drivers, the DVLA believes improving the standards of tests can improve conditions on the road. Kafui Semevo is Director of Driver Training, Testing and Licensing.
The essence of this is not to deny people driver's license, but it's to ensure that when you are licensed to be in the public space, you have met the minimum requirements and you are safe yourself. Your other road users are safe when you are around them. Those are some of the benefits. The other thing is that because we are receiving these reports electronically, it creates opportunity for the DVLA to now look at another service of renewing the driver's license online. We've not gotten there yet, but it's a very good opportunity this reform is bringing. So we are looking at it. When the time comes, we will let the public know what to do.
The reviewed process will ensure certified members of the Ghana Optometric Association perform the eye test on behalf of the DVLA. Results delivery in this system will be digitalized to deal with possible doctoring of the results. Meanwhile, the Ghana Optometrics Association explains some new tests will be added to the process. Dr. Remy Ningpe is president of the association.
Some of these tests include things like color testing to enable drivers be able to see well with colors, the traffic lights, the road signs and signages on the road, so that they are sure that they are seeing and are being seen well on the road. We are also going to test and make sure that drivers who probably would have had some conditions that will prevent them from seeing well in the future, identify them now and be able to solve them. Just a few people here, we can notice 1 or 2 people already wearing glasses. That enables them to see better. How many of our commercial drivers do you see wearing spectacles? Is it that they are all very good sighted people?
Still in the bulletin, the Medical Superintendents Group of the Northern Region is conducting free medical surgeries for patients with hernia, obstetrics and gynecological conditions in the Nanumba North Municipality of the Northern Region. The group says the area has a high prevalence of these conditions. 75 residents have already undergone surgery. Martina Bugri reports.
The Nanumba North Municipality has a population of over 160,000 people with just 2 doctors serving the hospital. This is said to be putting pressure on the 2 doctors. It's against this backdrop that the group decided to begin the maiden outreach exercise in Bimbila, where the cases are huge. Speaking to the media, the president of the Medical Superintendent Group, Dr. Abdullahi Seydou Ayuba, said they decided to do the surgical outreach to address some of the surgical needs of the people in the municipality.
Having seen that most of our patients really are not having the surgical needs, or the surgical needs are not met in the periphery. And you know, the Northern Region over the years has been without enough doctors, and very few doctors are around. It means that the people are not be able to be served well because you cannot clear. So in line with this, the Medical Superintendents Group of the Northern Region decided to do this surgical outreach just so as to be able to clear some of the surgical needs of people.
Lead surgeon of the group, Dr. Bashiru Abdul Majid, said hernia is the common disease in the area, affecting men who are mainly farmers. This, he said, is affecting productivity.
The commonest surgical problem within this area is hernia. It is because of the hard work people do. It's one of the risk factors. Okay, when you are doing a lot of manual work, it's a risk factor for hernia. And when you get a hernia, it affects your output. You often get pain and discomfort from the hernia, and you are not able to do serious work.
Medical superintendent at the Bimbila Municipal Hospital, where the surgeries were undertaken, Dr. Barhama Adam, said the municipality has just 2 doctors instead of the 10 posted to the area. This, he said, is affecting healthcare delivery.
There are quite a number of challenges. Okay, one of the biggest challenges we have here is, our numbers. Okay, you can imagine a district of over 160,000 population, served by only 2 doctors. We have only 2 doctors serving a population of over 160,000. Okay, so certainly it comes with a lot of challenges. Okay, last year or so, I think the national sent about 10 doctors. Out of the 10 doctors, I think it was only 1 or 2 who reported. Okay, the rest never came. Okay, so I mean, these are the challenges that we have as a region.
The Rotary Club of Ho is funding the construction of an information communication technology laboratory for the Dodomi Avexa DA Primary and JHS. The project is part of a series outlined by the club for the 2022-23 Rotary year. Here's a report by Fred Kwame Asari.
The Rotary Club of Ho Presidential Ball and Fundraising Dinner was held at Sky Plus Hotel in Ho. It was attended by members from Rotary clubs from Ghana, Togo, Benin and the USA, Rotaract clubs, Lion clubs and well-wishers. The objective was to make merry, socialize and solicit funds to undertake this year's flagship project of the Rotary Club of Ho. Simon Fafali Awume is the president of the Rotary Club of Ho.
I am also happy to announce that the flagship project of the year is a 30-unit computer lab project at Dodome Aveha Primary School and JSS. There couldn't have been a better time than now to direct our resources to the use of technology. Many things we do, especially in education. COVID-19 has taught us how much enough it is to use technology.
The district governor nominee, Engineer David Osei Amankwa Jr., who was the guest speaker, lauded the initiative and implored the gathering to donate generously towards the project.
The 30-unit computer laboratory is expected to be fitted out and donated to the school after this successful event. And it is indeed very commendable and will impact very positively on their ICT knowledge, acquisition and skills improvement. And as my commitment to the Dodome project, I pledged, or rather I'm donating 10,000 Ghana cedis.
The special guest of honor, Roxanne Kwesi Dogbegan, relaunched the Rotary Education Excellence Award scheme aimed at improving academic performance. He donated 10,000 Ghana cedis towards the flagship project.
The main objective of the Rotary Education Excellence Award scheme is to motivate basic school teachers in the region for higher commitment to service and professional performance. It also aims to foster competition for academic excellence among schools, pupils, and teachers in our basic schools.
The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, assured of his support for the success of the flagship project.
I wish to assure the club of my support, both in kind and in cash, and commitment toward the achievement of the great targets for the year under consideration. You see, we have had 2 special guests who have made their announcements, and I am like a subsidiary speaker. So I don't want to give anything more than 10,000 cedis.
An amount of 82,000 Ghana cedis was raised through personal donations and auctions to finance the provision of a 30-capacity ICT lab for the Dodome Aveha DA Primary and Junior High Schools. Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews.
And on that note, it's a wrap here on the news. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. The show continues with Benjamin and Bernice. Do have a blessed day. Hello, thank you for staying with us for the news review. We're joined by Dr. Kwame Asante, political scientist, director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, good morning to you. I see you. You would have to unmute for us, Doc.
Sorry. Ben, good morning and good to hear from you.
Great. So let's get into some quick stories. I'm sure you're familiar with them before we get into the newspapers this morning. Some of them emanating from the latest Auditor General's report. So one, we've been told that the Judicial Service has had some auctions and that 16 of its past and current justices, senior members of the bench. So we're talking about the superior courts, the Court of Appeal, the High Courts, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court, got some auctioned vehicles. And we're talking about vehicles that would cost nothing less than 70,000 American dollars, even if it's a period after 4 years. And they're buying them for $5,000, $6,000 thereabouts. And we're asking ourselves how this should be happening. Recently, I was speaking to a procurement, expert who was telling me that even when it is 0% rated after a number of years, it still has quite a bit of value, especially in light of what the Office of the Special Prosecutor has been telling us when it comes to the auction of vehicles by customs and all of that. What picture does that paint for you? And tied to that, because it's also in the report, I just want you to address both of them. Some 3 people have been paid between January 2020 and December 2021, have been paid, guess what, over 1.1 million Ghana cedis. They can't even be traced in terms of the Finance Ministry, the Ministry of Finance. They are not staffed there. They can't be found, yet they have secured over 1.1 million Ghana cedis, earning 29,000 cedis a month, 25,000 cedis, 19,000 cedis before deductions. What do you make of all of this?
Ben, it's nothing but weak capacity of the state. That's all. When we talk about capacity of the state, we are looking at how the state is able to use its resources to manage things efficiently for a better life for its people. Is that what we are seeing? No. It means somebody is not doing his work. All right. How can you pay a ghost, so to speak? And it's consistent. I mean, we've seen ghost names all the time, effort by the state to remove them, and in no time, they come back. Why can't we find a lasting solution to that? Is it the case that we want to deal with this issue head on? I'm not sure. Because if we want to address it, we'll find better ways of addressing it than this ad hoc and then lip service we pay to some of these things. So that has brought us thus far. I am also surprised that we still have a policy which is not only insulting, but distasteful, in the mouths of every rational human being. Now, people get cars, they go outside, work, get cars, bring them to this country, and then they are not able to pay taxes on them. And then the state find a way of, giving them out without proper value for money. I don't blame the judges because, yes, they will apply, and then they want the right thing to be done. So once you said, it's okay, you can buy, they can. But we have to look at the policy itself, whether it's worth maintaining. I think this policy is moribund. It must be jettisoned and thrown into the lake of fire. We don't need this. We need to reflect on that. You see, when you are dealing with any public policy and you go through the whole process, at the end of the day, you have to examine whether the policy is worth maintaining. If not, why do you continue to maintain it and incur the wrath of the public and insult the conscience of good people of this country? This is not fair. This policy must be thrown out.
It must be thrown out. So what essentially must be thrown out? Because you look at our assets declaration regime, for example, and you see that it has a lot of loopholes. People can basically present, as has been mentioned, blank sheets of paper and put it there. No one would know unless some issue arose. So we are basically clothed with the power to do X, Y, Z, but we are not doing X, Y, Z. The former Auditor General and some CSOs and individuals, prominent ones, have had to take on the current Auditor General, and they are threatening to picket the AG's office because they are saying disallow, surcharge. Yet we are not seeing that. There's another aspect of this: 17 billion Ghana cedis in public, irregularities. How do we account for that money? Surcharges, zero. So you could say that these nefarious officers have won 17 billion times, scored 17 billion points, and the state of Ghana has scored zero on that. I mean, what do we do?
Administrative capacity is weak. I mean, there are rules, there are, procedures, processes, but we don't want to adhere to them. All right. What do we do? It's not the case that we don't have, better laws to regulate the conduct of people in this regard. We have them, but enforcing them, it means that we, the people, must hold them to account. How do we hold them to account? If we talk about them and they will not listen, a time comes for us to renew their mandate. We throw them away. That is all. Or we go to court and seek redress. All right. You see what the CSOs are doing, that they are going to picket at the AG's office. Yes, that's one of the tools of public opinion that we can use to address some of these things. Otherwise, we can also go to court and seek redress. For government, we don't need to pamper any government because they are not doing anybody a favor, and nobody also force them into office. If they are not ready to govern, they give way, and that's all. Or we throw them out through the legal process. That's all, through elections. That's all.
Well, let's get into the papers now. Daily Graphic is where we're going to be starting. 17 billion Ghana cedis, financial irregularities uncovered in public corporations, like I was just mentioning. Cape Coast gears up for Fit to Afashe, that's on page 13. Electronic waste, Ghana risks becoming dumping ground, Energy Commission cautions. Aren't we already? I think at a point in time, it was mention was made of the fact that Sodom and Gomorrah, some parts of that stretch had become one of the most polluted, if not the most polluted site in the world, because they were, these computer parts and other TV parts and all of that. They were, melting them and doing all of that. And they were looking at how hazardous this was. And mind you, these people doing this are not even using protective gear, any masks or something to protect themselves. So you can tell. So this bit, I think we've been here a long time. It's not about becoming. We have been. There are other stories in there, but let's focus on these for now. So the first story, Ghana risks becoming an environmental dumping site for used electrical and electronic waste from Europe, the Energy Commission has cautioned. For that reason, the country needs to strengthen its regulations to block the influx of electronic waste from other jurisdictions into its market. Speaking with the Daily Graphic in Accra, the Assistant Manager in charge of Energy Efficiency Inspection and Enforcement at the Commission, Hubert Nsozan, said currently, the Commission was seeking overarching powers to effectively deal with the development. And he said, we deserve better as a people, and Ghana definitely deserves better as a country. But I'm putting it to you. So the regulation that we're looking at, LI 1932, is a 14-year-old law that bans the importation or sale, that is distribution of used refrigerators, air conditioners, incandescent filament lamps, among others. The others are distribution, transformers, computers, microwave ovens, and it goes on. But just as with these, you see, for example, was it 2019 or 2020 thereabouts? Ghana was the country importing the largest number of obraniwewu, used clothing, in the world. And guess what? I'm interacting with this Spanish entity that wants to conduct some sort of survey, which I'm helping them to do in Ghana. Guess what? A lot of this, 50%, sometimes 80% of it is all waste. How can we be a country like this? All the waste of the world, from clothing to electronics, ends up here.
Institutions are down. Remember, Obama told you, you need strong institutions. Who are those making sure that we get the materials worth, the salt to come into the system? Are they in this country, or they are on sabbatical leave, or whatever leave you can call it? Yeah, they're not working. Because other than that, you ask yourself, how did they get here? There are regulations. We need to enforce them. If there are people occupying offices who will not do their work, what about their supervisors? Are they also sleeping? I want to believe that they are also sleeping, because how do you supervise a work that you've given to your subordinate and he's not doing what is expected of him, and you are quiet? I mean, that's a problem. And they don't think about the health hazard that is imposed to the society. Look at the emissions that are coming out of this. And the people there have no idea about the effect that it will have on them and their society at large. And simply, we are just glossing over. I'm not surprised because, you see, we have banned trophy, turkey tail in this country. But go around in Sawam and other places. It's been displaced. Police will walk past. People who are law enforcement agencies also go there and even patronize some of them. Of course, not all of them. But you see this thing. You ask yourself whether it's a country of laws. I believe it's a country of laws. But what are we doing to ourselves? We are harming the whole society. And let us remember that we have price to pay. One day, we'll pay dearly for that if we don't stop this.
And, you know, as you mentioned, the trophy, the turkey tail bit, yes. It also brought to mind, you know, at a point we banned firecrackers, you know, the knockouts and the rest. But I don't know whether that ban has been lifted, but many years after, we're still using them very much. It's an interesting country. You know what boggles my mind sometimes? In this country, we seem to have some of the best laws. A lot of our neighbors, Rwanda, Kenya, and others, come and learn from us. But the implementation of what we put into our laws or our statutes is what becomes very problematic.
I think one of the things we can do, when I was in America, there's something that I experienced, that Americans would tell you that they have their legislature is unique. And I asked myself, what is unique about American legislature? Is that when they pass a law, the MPs go out to see that whether the laws are enforced. I think we can also take advantage of this and then implement some of these things so that our MPs will go out as part of their, duties to society to make sure that these things are, enforced. If not, they bring it to the floor of the House, we'll discuss and find solution to them. That will work.
Let's look at some other stories in the paper. So let's take a look at the one to do with financial irregularities. That story is on page 13 of the newspaper. Let's just get there. All right, so there it is. It says 17 billion Ghana cedis financial irregularities uncovered in public corporations. And the Auditor General has uncovered financial irregularities amounting to about 17.5 billion Ghana cedis in the 2021 Auditor Report of Public Boards and Corporations and other statutory institutions. It represents a 36% jump from the 2020 figure of 12.85 billion Ghana cedis. Now, in the last 5 years, financial irregularities in public boards and corporations have hit over, guess what, 50.8 billion Ghana cedis. 50.8 billion Ghana cedis. That means in today's terms, we're looking at about $5 billion plus dollars. $5 billion plus dollars. Almost twice the amount we are seeking from the IMF.
Yes.
So the 17.5 billion Ghana cedis uncovered in 2021 was mainly caused by the credit power sale of 6 billion Ghana cedis that the Volta River Authority and the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, of customers. Now, the irregularities were mainly in the form of cash, tax, payroll, debts and loans, stores and procurement, contract, rent, and credit power sales. Apart from cash locked up in non-performing investments on recoverable loans and also outstanding debts, there were also some financial infractions of 4.7 billion Ghana cedis due from customers of the VRA, the 1.2 billion due from customers of the NEDCO for power supply. But according to the audit report, the debts arose as a result of forex power sale, mines, sale of power to ministries, departments and agencies, sale of power locally, and the COVID-19 relief. Also captured in the 2021 audit of public boards and corporations were cash irregularities of 505 million Ghana cedis, mainly due to the misapplication of funds, budget overruns, payment of board allowances to council members. Look at that. Payment of board allowances to council members without ministerial approval and payments not authenticated. Out of this sum, 230 million Ghana cedis represented unbudgeted expenditure by the Ghana Cocoa Board on the principal repayment of a 10-year loan. I mean, it goes on and on. There's talk about payroll abuse, some of which we've seen at the Ministry of Finance, over 1.1 million Ghana cedis to 3 ghosts that we can't even trace. Procurement abuse and all of that. Sometimes Doc, I just get to the point where sometimes I don't even know whether talking about these issues makes any difference anymore. Oh, it's a sad story, because we continue to set up even office of, recently we had an office for monitoring and evaluation. What were they monitoring? All right. We as a people too, we have also been complicit with this issue. We have not been very aggressive enough to go to court and seek redress on these things. But the way forward is that let us make sure that next time we're going for elections, we'll ask the political parties to come and define to us how they will manage the system so that we don't get this waste from the system. Then we assess them based on what they have said, that yes, during your tenure, you got power, and this is the waste that we incur, for which reason we don't want to renew your mandate. Once we make it part and parcel of the program and we'll force them to put into the manifesto, we'll be able to track this thing and then punish them severely. Other than that, look, we'll come back and discuss this issue. Let's get into some other stories now as we say goodbye to the Daily Graphic newspaper. There's also the bit about Cape Coast gearing up for Fit to Afashe. But let's check out the international page and just dig in briefly. Kenya's Supreme Court begins hearing election petition. I had to run this by you because you know of what has been happening with Raila Odinga. And, but now the Supreme Court of Kenya began hearing the presidential poll petition by Raila Odinga, who is challenging the result of the August 9 presidential election, which delivered victory to William Ruto. The 7 bench judges, led by Martha Koome, already began the pre-trials on yesterday. This follows Monday's ruling on 2 affidavits that were struck out. And guess what? Just to give a briefing, because I followed it on the BBC yesterday, the court is going to allow the members of the opposition party to get pertinent details from the Electoral Commission and follow through on where they have irregularities or discrepancies. I've not seen this happening in our jurisdiction. I mean, it's interesting that the courts would go to this length as far as, you know, the Kenyan election is concerned, because in the end, transparency, that is the end of the game. But how relevant is it that the Supreme Court is doing this the second time for Raila Odinga? It's a good thing, because you see, in election processes, there are 3 phases: the pre-election phase, the election phase, and post-election phase. The most volatile area is the post-election phase, where people are in disagreement and they need resolution. They go to court. That is the way to go. And then the court will do the needful by coming out with a judgment that will stand the test of time. I am happy that the court is taking pains to go to the Electoral Commission to get all the needed information for their work. It's good. So that at the end of the day, once they make pronouncement, it's okay. We'll move on. And that's it. For me, that is the way we need to go, because Kenya, remember the experience of violence 2007 after their election. And I think this is one of the things to purge themselves of any violent activity in the country. So they are taking pains to do this. And I believe that other African countries will also follow suit and then address their electoral issues using the court than resort to the barrel of the gun, which has never helped anybody and will not help anybody. I am for democracy. Rule of law must reign supreme in every country. Let's look at the back page. It says University of Ghana launches initiative to combat sickle cell and childhood cancers, and 600 entrepreneurs in Kumasi benefit from precision quality program. The Ghanaian Times newspaper now. Leakage of public purse, 17.4 billion Ghana cedis missing. And pictured there, Mr. Johnson A. Siedu, Auditor General, whom some are calling out for refusing to disallow and surcharge. AG attributes losses to irregularities and non-compliance with the laws. Songo Salt project will rake in more revenue for national development. Magdan CEO Dr. Daniel Macaulay says so. And political traditional authorities charged to join fight against illegal mining. Also, 3 universities awarded presidential charter can award own certificates and degrees to students. But let's get into the paper proper and look at some other stories. Galamsey allegedly kills wife, mother, and sister, and drummer accused of defiling 16-year-old girl at church premises. Also, Porter remanded for robbing student of phone. So Anthony Yangdong, 20, an illegal miner, is in police grips for allegedly murdering his wife, mother, and sister at Kampala, a suburb of Drapa, in the Drapa municipality of the Upper West region. The victims are the 60-year-old mother of the suspect, Bozobo Yangdong, his sister, Rebecca Yangdong, 22, and his wife, Cynthia Dabuo, 45. We brought the story to you yesterday. I think it was in the Daily Graphic. So maybe since you are here with us today, you can give us your thoughts on that. Tied to this one, man in court for allegedly defiling landlord's daughter. And the restaurant manager accused of defiling his landlord's 15-year-old daughter, Osu, in Accra, has appeared before the gender-based violence court at the police headquarters. Victor Lassé, 42, charged with defilement, pleaded not guilty. And the relieving judge, Mrs. Dora Eshen, admitted Lassé to a 30,000 Ghana cedi bail with 2 sureties. Reflections, Doc?
It is in the bosom of the courts. Let's leave it with the courts. Let them finish their work, and we'll comment on that.
Over 100,000 people living with HIV in Ghana unaware of status. Wow. That's according to the Ghana AIDS Commission. Over 100,000 people are living with HIV in Ghana, and they are unaware of their status.
A very difficult situation. Because you see, when we are talking about labor force, we look at the health of a country. So we must put measures in place so that we can get this problem addressed. It is a worrying sign, and that if you tie it to the difficulty we have in the economy, and that also is going to take a chunk of the money that will be used to take care of them, then it's a problem. I think the institutions must begin to send the message out clearly, like the way they've started. It's a good thing, and then everybody will follow the process. Yeah.
Okay, so that will be it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. There's also Sports Minister urges FA to invest in local game at GFA's 28th Ordinary Congress. That's on the back page of that paper. But the Finder, what have they found? 932 die of HIV/AIDS in first 6 months of 2022. That's according to Dr. Ayisi Ado. That can be tied into the report I just gave. So almost 1,000 people have lost their lives, and about 100,000 aren't even aware of their status. That is, they have it, but they don't know they have it. Access Bank injects $250,000 into Division 1 League as headline sponsor. There's also U.S. government supports reading programs with 3.7 million additional books, and 3 varsities granted charter to enable them award their own degrees and diplomas. We've already looked at that. But I suppose another concern is the number of people we are losing to HIV and AIDS, Doc.
Health in general in this country is a problem. What is the budget that we give to the health ministry? Is it enough for them to do their work? We must also think about the input for them to do their work. How many vehicles do they have to go around the country and do advocacy and whatnot? There are a whole lot of things that are affecting us. If we manage our finances well, we should be able to put a finger on this problem and address them head on.
In other stories, page 4, monkeypox disease, 3 cases confirmed in Bono region. And there's also this one, Becca grabs master's degree at UPSA. I'm not the biggest fan of her music, though she's done some pretty good stuff, but we must celebrate our own. And Afropop, R&B, and highlife musician Rebecca Champon Sunny Daniel, popularly known as Becca, has grabbed a Master of Arts in Brands and Communication Management from the University of Professional Studies, Accra. Here's the highlight. She was the valedictorian for her year group, best student, 3.92 as GPA. And that is no mean feat because we've been there before. So that is something that we must salute. She's a product of the Wesley Girls High School, Wegehe. So Wegehe winning big as far as this one is concerned. And we salute Becca on this feat. So she's not just a musician doing business and other things. She's also got the smarts on. And
I want to join the people to also congratulate her. She was my student. I know her. She's very good. And the sky is her limit. You should work hard, and we'll support her in prayer. And we admire her, and you should continue to work hard and make everybody proud. We salute her.
We do salute Becca. More wins, more wins. Daily Guide now, 12.23 billion irregularities detected in MDA's operations. Government signs MOU with Toyota Susho. And there's 3 ghosts vanish with over 1 million Ghana cedis in salaries. So the money grew wings and flew away from the Ministry of Finance.
It's very, very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate that we need money to run the affairs of this country. If we manage our resources well, I'm not sure we'll go for loans from any institution, because what we throw out here through carelessness and lack of supervision is a lot, but we are not ready. We want to go borrow and then, come and use them and abuse them. But the little that we can generate will not manage them well. It's simply because there are institutions out there who are ready to support us. The day they will decide not to give us anything, we'll begin to look sharp and think right. And that time will soon come. And that is the time that we'll learn our lessons. For me, it's just a matter of time. The reality will dawn on all of us, and we'll know whether we'll continue to be in this state or not.
2 quick stories from the Daily Guide. On page 6, Atoforsen breached ambulance contract, and the Minister of Health, Kweku Adjumamenu, has insisted that the decision by Dr. Cassiel Atoforsen, a former Deputy Minister of Finance under the erstwhile John Mahama government, to write to the Bank of Ghana authorizing the establishment of letters of credit, which led to the importation of defective ambulances, breached the terms of the contract between the Government of Ghana and the Big C General Trading Limited, a Dubai-based company. The minister further reiterated that the Ministry of Health at the time did not approve the payments to be made under the contract, as there are no documents at the ministry to confirm the approval. Again, Mr. Adjumamenu told the court that he is not aware of claims that it was the Controller and Accountant General that wrote to the Bank of Ghana to establish the letters of credit, which formed the basis of payment of money to Big C. Of course, these assertions have been roundly debunked by Dr. Cassiel Atoforsen, but we'll leave the courts to decide what the way forward. They would events read between the lines. But then there's also Magdan defense of Ofori-Atta. I want your quick take on this. Business mogul Daniel Macaulay, popularly called Magdan, has rejected calls for the removal of Ken Ofori-Atta as finance minister. According to the founder of Magdan Shipping Company Limited, the minister must be given time as well as encouragement as he takes steps to fix the broken economy. The CEO of Magdan Group believes that in as much as he respects the views of those calling for the minister's head, they should also understand that President Akufo-Addo knows the reason he appointed him to that high office. Interesting times. Your reflections?
We also know the reason why we are talking the way we are talking, because a hungry man is an angry man. Let us also remember that one of the factors that influence voter choices in this country is the economy. It is in the interest of the government to fix the economy. Other than that, when it gets to election, this is one of the variables they will use to gauge the performance of the government. If they are saying that the minister is doing well, fine, I have no problem. But the reality will dawn on the government sooner than later.
Let's wrap with just these few stories and we can say goodbye. We'll look at Republic Press quickly and Ghanaian Publisher. So NDC members who campaign skirt and blouse cannot contest positions. Story on page 4, pictured there at Dekoka. I'm very passionate about Ghana's transformation. Kwabena Japon says so, and he's been taken on by some members of the ruling administration because he's been vociferous in talking about some of the rot in the system. Next NDC government will champion a review of 1992 constitution. That's according to John Dramani Mahama. But, Mr. Mahama, I have a quick, we have the 2010 Constitutional Review Commission, which your boss, then President Atta Mills, put together. And nothing happened. 2010. You left power in 2016. What happened in between? And still, we're talking about major flaws in our 1992 Constitution. Our Assets Declaration regime, one of those. So you had the opportunity, Mr. Former President. What did you do with it? That's the question. Judges indicted in AG report for buying Donkomi auction cars. Dufour challenges Mosquito over Ahoto projects, and government would have fixed more roads if people had embraced e-levy. That's according to the roads minister. I'd like you to share your thoughts on any ones you choose, but also add what Amwakwata is saying, that if we had embraced the e-levy, Ghana could have built more roads. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but your thoughts on that?
Oh, yes. I'm also laughing here because I don't think I subscribe to that proposal by the minister. With respect, look, we have got a lot of money in this country. Have we managed them, well? No. Look at the waste slipping through our hands. A lot of money. All right. About 50 point something billion. We can account for this. This is enough to take care of everybody. So you are always looking for money. But you see, it's your duty also to manage resources well. That's what we call governance. Governance is the effective use of resources to make life better for everybody. Is it the case? No. So we can give you whatever you need, but if you are not able to manage it well, I'm afraid you can't do anything. Government must do self-introspection and realize that there are things they are not getting them right. They should be able to plug them. I'm surprised that government is struggling to get people to help government to fix the economy. Where are the Kufuor boys and girls who helped President Kufuor to put CD to dollar? Where are they? Is the government making use of them? I'm surprised that the president is not making use of these people. There are a lot of people there even within the NPP. All right. This is where we saw President Kufuor's era when CD was equivalent to dollar. Those who managed the gains at the time, where are they? Are they alive or they are outside this country? I think they have to reach out to them and let them help the process so that we can all breathe a sigh of relief. We are worried. We are worried as a people.
But some may tell you that they're still around. We may not have those who have passed on to glory like the Banre Dues and the rest, but we have the Osafo Mafos. And maybe they are not listening to maybe they are not listening to the Mpianims and the others. Maybe they are not listening.
Yes, Mr. Why won't you listen to them? Governance is making the best out of what you have. And if you continue to work, because there is somebody or an institution called the IMF you rise to when you are in dire need of money, you won't resort to them, then I'm afraid you are not governing. You are doing something else. Governance is dialogue. You bring all hands on deck to make life meaningful for everybody.
Well, time to wrap, but let me just leave our audience with some headlines from the Ghanaian publisher. Curbing river mining a shared duty, that's according to Mreku Duka, Deputy Minister. There's also 19 judges in unlawful purchase of vehicles. And of course, stick to quality assurance, FDA, to water producers. Doc, any parting comments?
I think, let us see. I want to go back to the thing you said about NDC, who said that they are not going to allow people who campaign for skirt and blouse and all that. As part of the process to build internal democracy within parties, parties must spell out the do's and don'ts and continue to give education to their followers so that you know that when you cross a line, you'll be punished. And that is not only peculiar with the NDC, with all the parties. Sometimes you see struggling and then breach of laws and all that. All these things, doesn't augur well for meaningful democracy. If we want to build a democracy that will stand the test of time, we need to build our institution as solid as a rock. It is on this basis that we can have an endured democracy that will last the test of time. Yes.
Doc, nagode, yadawase.
I'm grateful.
All right, Dr. Kwame Asante there joining us for the news review. But up next, we serve you sports. And of course, we'll be showing you how the Blues, Chelsea, crumbled with Southampton. When Man United, my own Red Devils, caught them and spanked them by 1-0, people said, oh, it's a fluke. Well, Southampton caught the Londoners, Chelsea, and showed them where power lay. All of that coming up in sports. Stay. Muftau Nabila Abdullah here with AM Sports. Coming up, we're hearing from the president of the Ghana Football Association, Ket Okreku, who has got some strong words for members of the football governing body that owns the association. And also, we'll talk about Premier League, where Chelsea crumbled as Southampton walked away with maximum points. And we'll wrap up with some amputee football. But first, the president of the Ghana Football Association, Ket Okreku, has called on members of the football governing body to pay monies due the association. The FA has a policy of receiving 10% of transfer fee of players. However, clubs such as Tama Youth has been noted to owe the association. Ket says they will pursue any club that owes the football governing body to ensure they get their money.
Of the ESCO, or you are not in charge of the finance department, it is very clear you wouldn't know which clubs owe and which clubs do not owe. It is the responsibility of the FA to pursue every club that owes, because the foundation of this sport is run on money. And every club that owes this FA must pay, and they will pay. If you owe this FA, and you know that you owe this FA, we will pursue you and you will pay. Because without the money, we can't run football. And all of us have signed up to the basic agreements that run this our football association. So, Pama, we are not leaving any club who owes this football association. If Dreams FC, which is my club, owes this FA, Dreams will be pursued and Dreams must pay and will pay. Same as Tama Youth.
And Ket Okreku owes about 33.3% of Dreams FC, which is his football club. However, he stepped down as executive chairman of the club after winning the FA elections in 2019. Still on football, Ghana's amputee team missed out on England Tri-Nation in July due to UK visa delays and may not make it to the 3rd and 4th September pre-World Cup friendlies against the English amputee football team. Joy Sports' Asar Bidiakon has the rest of the story.
Ghana was scheduled to play England and Poland in pre-World Cup friendly games between July 29 and 31 at the Rich Heath College Park in Cheshire. But due to UK visa processing delays, the team was denied the opportunity. The amputee national team, nicknamed the Black Challenge, could not travel for the pre-World Cup Three-Nation tournament because their passports were still at the British High Commission when the competition kicked off. England has agreed to play Ghana in a friendly on September 3. It has been over 7 weeks since the applications were submitted. All attempts made by governance agencies, Ghana Paralympic Committee and the Ministry of Youth and Sport have proven futile. Here is head coach of the team, Richard Obin.
This is a national team, to be precise, Ghana national team, the African champions, to be precise, and the reigning African champion till the next African tournament. We all don't get it. We all came from Turkey, some players and myself from our clubs. We were hoping to return after the Three-Nation tournament, and it's been 7 weeks. We will plead with the British High Commission to come in to intervene for the sports, because if we do like this, it's like the sports is being neglected in our country, and the persons with disability, they will have every reason to stay away from the sports. And this is what the National Paralympic Committees want to prevent, and this is what GACA also want to prevent. This is what the club owners in Ghana also want to prevent. People from going back to the streets and neglecting the sports because they are neglected in their society.
Foreign-based players, coaching staff, officials and journalists are left disappointed as they have no idea when their passports will be released as the new date for the test game with the English amputee football draws near. Richard Pinston is captain of the national amputee team.
These two matches is going to help both national teams for them to have a good preparation towards the World Cup ahead of us. And also our relationship with UK and Ghana, we have a nice relationship that we don't want to disappoint each other. So we are pleading with the the ambassador to assist us to get the visas so that we honor this friendly exercise.
Mohamed Hamis is General Secretary of the Ghana Amputee Football Federation.
England touts itself as the home of amputee football, the home of all games in relation to football. So I call on them to actually they should just process this application of ours, make sure we get the visas by tomorrow or latest by Thursday so that the team can fly to England and then play the friendly match.
Ghana is the champion of Africa after beating Liberia in the Amputee AFCON final.
The Director of Sports at the University of Ghana, Dr. Bello Bitugu, has appealed to the government to speed up work on the facilities for the Africa Games 2023. The University of Ghana Stadium will be a venue for some of the disciplines of the games expected to happen last year, but the facilities have not been completed with less than 12 months to the continental event. Dr. Bella wants the government to ensure that work is fast-tracked. He spoke to my colleague, Fenty Otahiru.
Clearly, the University of Ghana will be doing and taking care of a lot during the games, because this is where the games village will be located, to be located in 4 halls, what people often call diaspora halls, or what we call the UGL halls. Then we have the rugby stadium. Then we have the warm-up track, which is up here, and then clearly the stadium here for the athletics. Clearly, it is the base for action during the Africa Games. You are privy to what is going on at the stadium, yet you can see there is work going on. In fact, in all the areas work is going on. I am not able to give you the exact percentages because I don't have them in my hands now, and that should actually be the remit of the contractors or the LOC. But clearly we would be wishing and hoping and desirous of hard work and speeding up things to be able to meet the deadline. So we are hopeful and we are desirous, but clearly we should be able to step up a little bit faster and more so that we get things sorted out and be ready for the games.
Yeah, so from basically, say, if I'm hearing you, what you are saying is that even though work is progressing, we could benefit from a faster pace.
We could benefit from a faster pace. Working faster and accomplishing a lot in a shorter period is always something, or are always things that we desire when we are undertaking projects. So we would certainly be able to benefit far more and be even more hopeful and even more excited if we were moving a little bit faster. But all said and done, we are hopeful that we are going to host the games, and we will be happy to be the eye of the world and Africa especially.
Yeah, one of the things that I have picked up is that the LOC and government and everybody, including the University of Ghana, expect facilities to be ready by February next year. Is that realistic?
Well, as I said, I am actually not the contractor, and I am not the LOC. I don't have the documents with me. But if experience will guide us, and you are in the stadium now because that's where my office is. If experience will guide us on the construction and completion of such facilities, you can estimate, and then you can make your conclusion whether they will be finished by February, seeing what is on the ground now.
Yeah. To the English Premier League, Southampton completed a first-half turnaround to inflict Chelsea's second defeat of the season with a 2-1 victory. Elsewhere, Alexander Mitrovic netted his 6th goal of the campaign to help Fulham secure a win over Brighton and Hove Albion. To the Italian Serie A, where Jose Mourinho's Roma defeated Monza 3-0, which sends them to the top of the table with 10 points. That is your AM Sports, but you can head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories. We appreciate your company with us this morning. The show continues right after this.
Welcome back on the AM show. And you know, from this end, we get into the very hard issues. We call them the big stories. We start from the Auditor General's report, and some 16 past and current judges of the Superior Courts have been indicted by the Auditor General for the purchase of vehicles contrary to Regulation 158 of the Public Financial Management Regulations 2019 LI 2378. The Auditor General's report also shows that 17.4 billion Ghana cedis in financial irregularities occurred. They have been flagged, but this represents a 36% rise compared to that of 2022. And there's more. But helping us get into these matters, we have joining the conversation Edem Sinanu, an anti-graft campaigner. Edem, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation. Okie doke, so we'll be joined shortly by Edem Sinanu, also joining the conversation. Hello,
Thank you
Edem.
for having me. Good morning. Yeah, good morning.
Great. I couldn't hear you initially, but
Yes,
now...
I was muted. Yeah.
Right. Let me also bring in Bernice Abubedu Lanza, who is here with me in the studio.
Good morning.
Quick reflections on these. Yesterday, we had the conversation with Dr. Pumpuni Asante of the CDD about the Citizens Coalition pushing for the Auditor General to do something in terms of surcharging and disallowing, some of these things.
Yes.
Then, today, we're hit with this report and what it evinces. What picture does that paint for you?
And to think of, even though it's not in the same breath, to think that you also had a conversation about the judiciary yesterday and how there are concerns about the waning trust in the judiciary. One would expect that these are people who must uphold the law, and so you would least expect that there will be some infractions or some... Oh, yes.
Why name free? Why name
Oh, it's not
prom?
free. They were auctioned, were they not?
Yeah, vehicles worth about $70,000, $75,000, auctioned after a few years for what, $6,000?
So it adds to the bigger conversation about trust, about people you hold in high esteem. You expect that they would flag some of these things. They would ask questions about some of these things. Even if you're auctioning them, why at that price, But it is what it is. And we are being told that the Auditor General has ordered that this be nullified and the vehicles recovered. We would wait to see what happens. But let me take your initial reaction to this, Mr. Sinanu.
Well, to be honest, it's depressing when you get this kind of information because, like you pointed out, we expect our seniors to ask all the right questions, and especially a certain category of citizen in whom we have placed our trust and the country has made investments. This kind of report further damages the confidence of citizens in saying that we have seniors who are making sure that the right thing gets done. So disappointed, really disappointed at this kind of news. And I'm wondering the detail. What was the process followed? And how come nobody asked any question? Or did they ask and were not listened to? I'm just surprised at the extent of the gap between the value and what eventually went for. Some of them are 2017, models. So this is 3 years after they had been purchased. I'm wondering why you would even want to auction them. So there are questions that have to be answered, but really disappointed at this because it doesn't help us in the fight against corruption.
All right. So, we know this because the Auditor General's report highlighted it. Also, we know that there were some infractions in the process. So there was no approval from the Finance Ministry. How do we ensure that some of these things are caught before they even get to the point of auditing for us to know? Because if vehicles are auctioned without due process, why should it take the Auditor General for us to know? what kind of processes or what kind of measures can be put in place in our administrative system to ensure that some of these things are seen and even stopped before the Auditor General does his work?
Well, we have the internal audit function and then we have the Auditor General function. Internal auditors are required to be cross-checking what the various departments and units within the function are doing. And so in my mind, the first level of check is the internal audit that ought to be looking at processes, procurement, auctioning, all of that should have happened. And then you layer that on to the Auditor General once a year, which is still good. At each level, the question, so the first thing would be, didn't the internal audit function pick it up and what did they do about it? Because there should be procedures that follow, which will say that without a letter from Ministry of Finance, you can't proceed with the next step. And so in my mind, you need to find the officer who signed off without that letter from Ministry of Finance, and that person ought to be sanctioned. So internal audit should have raised that. Now that the Auditor General has raised it, again, the question is who is being sanctioned? And that has been one of the major gaps, that the findings of the Auditor General report, they are put out there, and there's no traction. We have the audit report implementation committees that are supposed to review this, take up the recommendations and make sure that they are enforced. I'm interested not just in and so what I'm trying to suggest is that it's not just the retrieval of the money, the cars, the nullification, but the sanctioning of public officers who have engaged in actions ultra various what they ought to have done. When we don't get to the level where individuals are being picked up and sanctioned, then we get this repeated year after year. You've got to set examples and set the precedent that this is no longer tenable. And so those are my thoughts.
And so for you, you think that asking that the auction be nullified and the vehicles recovered is not enough?
It's not enough because, as you pointed out, we've had an excess of 30% increase over last year. And that's been the trend, a gradual increment. And 30%, by the way, is not as small. It's not substantive, a substantive jump in the irregularities, and all of that is simply because with each year, the level of action on the recommendations and the people being sanctioned is not happening. It's like we can make the mistake, we'll just be asked to pay back or something, We need to get to the level where the individual is held accountable for their actions or inactions.
Would you say then, Adam, that we have a broken audit system because it technically operates post the fact, post the irregularity, post the breach, post the corrupt activity? And oftentimes, if you don't see what Domelevo brought to bear, where you would have disallowance and surcharge, people get away with it. Look at the sum when we're looking at the public sector and how much is involved, the corporations, the entities, ministries, and the rest. That is huge. How can we keep up like this?
Well, I wouldn't call it a broken audit system because audits are generally done after the fact. So that's the audit. You finished and someone comes and checks, did you do it right? But I probably would say that in terms of supervision and monitoring, we have a broken system. Because if you have effective monitoring and evaluation systems in place, they will pick up signals that something is going wrong. Especially if you've digitized, if there's an electronic system that says that without the next step can come on, so you can't get, the system won't allow you to approve an auction because a certain document has not been filed, So it's about the system in place. If the system has certain, it's like when you are filling a form online and then they have certain columns, certain data entry points where there's an asterisk. If you don't fill it, you get to the button, it tells you this and that has not been filled, so you can't proceed. That's exactly how the system should work, that without A, you can't get to B. So without a letter from the Ministry of Finance that was signed off, you can't get to say you're going to auction. And so there's a need for a review of some of the systems that allow processes to continue in spite of the absence of key documentation, which are, as it were, should be the trigger for proceeding. So yes, brokenness in terms of monitoring. Indeed, this is one of the reasons why you have the legislature. We ought to be looking at our laws and our policies, learning from our experiences. And, policy is not static. Law is not static. It ought to be dynamic, looking at the needs of the nation as we go on with time. And so one is expecting, someone should look at it and say, look, the losses we are making because at this point we don't have a system that insists that you need to provide this document, and it's not like an individual can gloss over it. We need to make those changes.
How do we bring about those changes? How do we bring about those changes you speak of? And take, for example, what happened at the Ministry of Finance. 3 people, 1, 2, 3, over 1.1 million Ghana cedis involved. They were paid for 2 years, January 2020 to December 2021. Nothing in the system was able to trigger that these people were earning 29,000+, 25,000+, 19,000+ every month without tax deductions and all of that. How is that even possible? So how then do we start the process of fixing? I know I'm troubleshooting, but when you take that specific example, how do we deal with that?
I mean, it tells you somebody was sleeping on the job. I mean, the thing is this: given the level of payroll and other fraud that has gone on, you need to have had a system that says that the total number of staff verified, validated of Ministry of Finance is 102. Because at some point you ought to have checked who are the people who have been incorporated into the system. They've been accepted into the system, we've confirmed. And therefore, what are the payments we are making? There has to be somebody who is checking that. And that's why I'm saying that part of our challenge simply is who is monitoring and which officer failed to do the due diligence that allows us to say that, no, but there's a problem here. There should be a red flag. And for 2 years, I saw those figures and I was telling myself, this is very interesting. And by the way, you see, the Auditor General doesn't come and he comes along with his own files. He picks your own documents. Mm-hmm. So he's not manufacturing the information. He's coming to your own desk, pick your own files and look at it, and the person is just paying a little extra scrutiny. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Finance will definitely have its internal audit system and function. Somebody who is supposed to be doing a similar task. There will be people who are in HR and admin who are supposed to ensure that the file on every employee includes the interview, includes the screening, includes the validation, and so on and so forth. So where are the files on those 3 individuals? And what do those files say? Who was responsible in the HR function to have made sure that those files are complete and signed off? It's always there's something at the individual level. And I'm thinking that there's a sense in which, okay, our audit report is a high level. What's the low level, micro level detail that tells us that A failed and B failed? And what system do we have to sanction them? Believe me, there are people who have failed in their responsibilities. It's not captured at the moment, but we need to find out. And we need to see some actions being taken, because over the years, in a private sector entity, there is no way this volume or this sum of money would have been paid by somebody who is in HR to some people who didn't exist, and you'll still be in the company. I mean, same day, same week, you will receive a letter, maybe suspension, and then next thing, you are out. It's because in the public sector, it's almost as if there's a tradition that you cannot be fired. Mm. And that's one of the big, let's say, the elephant in the room we ought to change. It's like once you get employed in the public sector, there's nothing under the sun that can change your sleeping position. You are a permanent employee. Come rain, come shine, whether you do something that is drastically wrong or not. And that is the kind of thing we need to change. We need to make sure that we can sanction, we can fire people in the public sector. Otherwise, the system, the corruption continues unabated.
This reminds me, I think, just before he left office, the former Auditor General, Daniel Domolovu, had talks with internal auditors, and I think there were concerns about performance and how some of them were just transferred to other stations or other parts of the country if they didn't do too well. where they were stationed, you're concerned about the fact that these people sometimes don't do their jobs well, but the only thing we see is that they either moved, but they're not sacked. So it's as though it's their right to be there. But this whole issue about the abuse of the public financial management framework or system, does it only point to a lapse or disregard for the framework, or probably there are issues with the framework itself?
Well, excuse me. Well, I think that so far nobody has said that the framework itself is not effective in terms of the clauses, the requirements. And in my mind, I remember that this was an update on the previous regimes where we thought we needed something a little more stronger. It seems to me that, once again, it's simply what level of corrective mechanisms do we have in place? How do we make sure that when things haven't worked out well, how do we review? How do we improve? What's the feedback loop? And how we identifying people who have, as it were, transgressed, not followed the process, and yet, processes continue. I don't know if it's a cultural or subcultural thing where we tend to gloss over important facets. And when it comes to sanctions, you see, when you go to the UK or the US, the thing is that if there's a certain part of a law you breached, it doesn't matter who you are, what level of society you belong to, you'll be picked up and you have to answer. It appears that we are not very strong on picking up people who have not followed process and making them face the full rigors of the law. And I don't know whether we need to create, a judicial arm that deals with these things, something that is swifter, I've been talking recently about fast-track corruption courts. I don't know whether that will help, but you need a system that you can't just ignore the law, the process, and proceed and nothing happens. Because then what happens is, over time, people just accept that, this part of the law, you can ignore it and get away with it. And probably similar to what happened in the case of the customs administrative directions, which were allowing officers to give reduced values when they don't have that right according to law. So somebody should have found out that, look, the law is being breached and this should have been picked up. And people questioned, I don't think it is a public financial management law per se. I think it is a people's thing. And I think our systems to identify that someone has breached a part of the process and then make them face the rigors of the law somehow has not been well coordinated, such that we can ensure that over time the right thing keeps being done.
But I guess when you pick the issues apart, some would also tell you that, no, we're being unfairly treated in this matter. Let's take the 19 vehicles to the 16 judges in question. We're told that one of those who has headed the magistrates and justices has said that, look, we went through due process. You have to go through the Ministry of Finance. The right processes are followed, and we get them. So why would you be pointing at us? Is the flaw then from the beneficiaries, or is it from the system itself and our auctioning regime? Because and you're fully aware that in recent times, the special prosecutor has also had to clamp down on auctions by customs and all of that in a similar regard. Where lies the problem then? If the justices tell you the vehicle may have been worth $75,000 plus, it's 4 years and all of that, yes, there will be some reductions, but definitely not 6,000. But they gave it to us at this sum. We've done no wrong.
Yeah, and there's the reason why I said that when our seniors accept things like that, it raises questions. Why am I saying that? I mean, if a car was bought in 2017 and is being auctioned in 2020, 2021, and you know the values, somebody should be asking questions. So two things. One, it is possible that they follow the process as far as they were aware. But having said that, you still look at the vehicles involved, the values involved, and you're wondering, didn't anybody begin to say, is this all there is? Isn't there something really, isn't it too good to believe? And it's typical, whether it's a men's goal and whatnot. Sometimes we seem to get ourselves in situations where, in hindsight, you're wondering, didn't anybody ask? Wasn't there any disquiet? So I won't fault anyone saying that, this was the process, and perhaps we should look at it again, because as I said, somebody failed to do the steps, follow the steps accurately. But beyond that, for the beneficiaries, wasn't there any disquiet? Wasn't there any signal that there is something just not too right? Isn't this too good to believe? Shouldn't I cross-check? And I'm saying that for a certain category of people, we're expecting much more questions than the ordinary. So they can choose to attempt to get away with saying that, but we follow the process. But for the rest of us, as the people and citizens of this country, we're expecting much more from them, and that's the point.
It's important that you make mention of this, because our judges are supposed to have character, be morally upright, ramrod straight, if you like. But are you suggesting that they should have turned down these boons that were being given to them, offered to them on a silver platter? And does it question their moral rectitude then? Does it put into question the character that they are supposed to have as justices of our courts?
No, not necessarily. I don't think that on the face of it, it provides enough evidence to question moral character. But there's an extent to which, in my mind, the questioning and incisive critical thinking capacity, in my mind, I'm wondering, wouldn't I ask questions? Shouldn't they have asked questions? Given the fact that in court, they're always asking questions, asking more questions of the witnesses to try and draw conclusions. And then given the context that typically, if I'm right, they retire and are given their cars or a car or something like that. So why did this auction thing come in? And is it the offer? Was it because of the nature of the offer? And didn't the nature of the offer in itself become a point of interest? How come cars of just 2, 3, 4 years are being auctioned? I would not at the moment link it to a moral issue. I would just say that it raises questions of why, what was the incentive? What was the benefit? What was the attraction? And weren't questions asked? And I think that for all of us, we expected much more. We absolutely expect much more from our seniors. It's like how in the last year, I've been wondering, where are the seniors in Ghana? Things are happening, and those who should speak up and say, look, come on, let's get back on track. Ghanaians, we are very proud. I do work outside this country, and I'm like, the kind of education I've had, I stand toe to toe with anybody from anywhere in the world. I come back and I'm extremely disappointed at the things that are happening around me, because in my mind, this country is so blessed. We ought to be, far ahead of where we find ourselves developmentally than we do today.
Adam, I want you to hit the nail on the head for me. And I don't know. Let me just put it this way. If it's not right, it must be wrong, right?
Yeah, if it's not right, and that's ethical leadership. We say you must know what is right, do what is right, and influence those in your circle of influence to do what is right, to do same. I teach ethical leadership, so yes.
So if you're getting a vehicle that in some instances could be worth as much as $100,000 and you're getting it for a pittance, $6,000, that's not right. Because look, even those who are into procurement will tell you that even after 15 years, when you look at the depreciation of any item, it still has value.
even when you zero rate it, it still has appreciable value. Interestingly, just yesterday, I saw a vehicle from 2013 that is selling for 60,000. Someone would say it's overpriced, but it still has value. So you would have to negotiate. In this instance, when you look at the disparity, I mean, and this is what we do, not just in these instances, it's the same thing we do at the ports where sometimes we even incur losses for the state, selling off these vehicles at far cheaper than even their duty. How can we continue like this? So hits the nail on the head. If it's not right, it is wrong. What exactly is wrong about it?
What is wrong is the fact that questions were not asked whether this auction is a genuine auction process, and I think the mechanism of an auction is one where someone could bid any figure and get away, and that's why sometimes it's advantageous to some people. The thing could be worth 100,000, and on that day you're the only one who bid for it, and probably said 1,000 and you got it. So the mechanism of auctions in itself poses a problem, because that is also supposed to be a benefit to people who get into the system. So I cannot fault the auction part of it. What I can fault is that people should have known that there ought to be questions asked to be sure that this process is flawless, it aligns with the laws of the land, and nothing has been breached. And that, for me, is the ethical issue. Perhaps I would like to highlight that our seniors, it doesn't matter whether it's in the judiciary, in the executive, in the legislature, or whichever place, we need to be more questioning, because so much is going wrong in this country. Let's all do the right thing by inquiring much more to be sure that our processes we engage in are legitimate, have followed due process. There's nothing outstanding, especially when it's too good to believe. It's too good to believe. This is one of those where not asking the right questions, for me, let's say it's a crime against the people of Ghana.
I just want to avert your attention to LI 2378. And it makes clear that these processes must go through the finance ministry, different processes within the finance ministry. While the judges protest this picture that is being painted, it is also clear from the Auditor General's report that some of those processes, as per the Ministry of Finance, were not followed, for which reason this nullifies the entire process. That is where my concern is. That's why I keep pushing you in respect of the moral duty of the judges. Because if you were getting something like that, you would want to be sure that it had gone through the right processes so that, you wouldn't be in this situation. But they did not do that.
Yeah, well, the question on my mind is, were the judges minded that there is an ally they need to look at and conscious of all the processes? Should I be insisting, is it an obligation? I'm only saying that because of the category of people we're talking about. That is an expectation for myself. But by policy and law, I don't know that there is an obligation on them, except to if they were made an offer and it was formally done. And so my interest is, what was the nature of the offer? Did it come formally to the judicial system? Was it posted? And did these ones then take advantage of it? And what were they told? There's a sense in which they could have been secluded. They could have been kept away from the other details which mattered. In which case that would be an unfortunate thing, but so I'm being cautious. But as I've said, and that's probably where I'll leave it, we have greater expectations from them to be more questioning, and for not just them, for everyone, that look, when it's too good to believe, ask more questions. It doesn't matter whether the formal processes have been utilized, because in this country, we are much more frequently discovering that things that ought to have been done have not been done, and before you know it, you get to become party to something that you would ordinarily not have wanted to be part of. So we need to be questioning, and we are expecting a lot more from our seniors in terms of checking these things. It doesn't matter where they find themselves.
In your answer to the question before this one, you mentioned that this is not just about the judiciary, but all sectors of our lives as a people. And I'm looking at page 16 of the Ghanaian Times today, and it has details of a portion of the Auditor General's reports that focuses on leakages. And I'll just read a portion of it. The Auditor General has detected financial irregularities by public records corporations, by public boards, I beg your pardon, corporations and other statutory institutions amounting to 17 million cedis over that in the 2021 financial year ending December 31, attributing the irregularities to non-compliance with provisions of the Public Financial Management Act, Public Procurement Authority Act, and lack of due diligence by officers. The AG said the irregularities cut across cash, payroll, procurement, tax, stores, and contracts. The amount represents a 36% increase over what was recorded in 2020. The increase was occasioned mainly by credit power sales to Volta River Authority and Northern Electricity Distributing Company customers. The breakdown, and it gives the figures, due from customers of VRA is in respect of forex power sales, local power sales, mine power sales, government ministries, departments and agency power sales, and Government of Ghana COVID-19 power relief. Now, this is one leg of it. The other has to do with the education sector. So this is on the energy sector. On the education sector front, only 61 out of 360 programs offered by KNUST are accredited. Now, what the AG is advising is that management should cease running programs that are not accredited or programs that are yet to get re-accreditation or get the accreditation renewed to avoid sanctions by the National Accreditation Board. So here we sit as a people, judiciary, executive, parliament, education, energy. Is this an attitude problem, or it is just that we haven't put the right structures in place? And I come back to the structures because there are those who say, and they have experienced what happens in other jurisdictions, who say it is almost impossible for you to get away with such things. The system will just not allow it.
Well, yes, so it's actually a combination of both. The work done by Transparency International shows that the jurisdictions that are doing very well in respect of anti-graft, there are about 3-4 things which are key. One of those is effective policies, laws and policies. In Ghana, we have a plethora of laws and policies. It's not that we don't lack the laws and policies. A second is strong, independent, objective institutions, anti-graft institutions. We don't have enough of that. At the moment, the OSP probably is the most proactive, but we need the other anti-graft. And by the way, when they say strong, independent, it means that you are not having their leadership selected by the executive. You are not having their finances controlled by the executive. They are able to take a decision objectively. And so at a point, you can have multiple independent institutions investigating the same matter. So strong independent institutions are there, and those are key. We also have the issue of education, so that the citizenry have a good understanding of conflict of interest, of graft, corruption, extortion, embezzlement, all the terminologies. I find that many public officers don't even understand the basics of conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest. And then they have intentionally, and this is where I'm just trying to bring the things together. They have intentionally inculcated values of hard work, integrity, and honesty. So you find that the Nordic countries do very well. Their educational systems and family systems have been designed where You have codified what are the core values of the society, which will deal with honesty, integrity, and hard work. And they try to build them from childhood to understand that these are the core values you must stand for. We have not intentionally done that. So on one hand, without codified values which are national, that families, education system, we push and we refer to and we challenge ourselves. We've said that if somebody did something wrong, he will even resign without even waiting for an investigation because they want a certain credibility to go with the reputation of their family. That's on one hand. On the other hand, our policies and laws and the enforcement, not just having the effective policies and laws, but also the enforcement. And that's a challenge we also have. Our enforcement is very weak. When is the last time you found any precedent set by people being found culpable, jailed? How often do we do that? We are very, very weak. We don't like to touch anybody. And that's not the way to get any results as far as anti-graft is concerned. So there are at least two areas where we are failing miserably. It's an enforcement of our own laws and policies. We are not enforcing. On the other hand, we haven't codified core values. So there's an attitudinal problem. Many of the young Ghanaians and people now think that shortcuts, get rich quick, and that's it. We won't get punished anyway. Or if we're in jail, maybe our family will continue enjoying and I'll be a hero within the community. We've got to rethink these things.
Also joining the conversation, and before we let go of you, Adam, just stay with us. Professor Ebo Turkson is with the Economics Department, University of Ghana. Prof, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Great. Thank you for joining the conversation. Just hold for us, Prof, as we conclude this leg of the conversation and come to you. Thank you for joining. So, Adam, just to wrap up the conversation before you give us your parting shots, when you look at the cash irregularities as per the 2021 audit, when it comes to public boards, corporations, and in terms of the cash irregularities, it's amounted to some 505 million Ghana cedis. And it has to do with the misapplication of funds, budget overruns, payment of board allowances to council members without ministerial approval, and payments not authenticated. Then there is the case of Cocobot alone, accounting for 230 million Ghana cedis of this sum, representing unbudgeted expenditure. So misappropriation, budget overruns, that is budgetary indiscipline, payment of board allowances to council members without ministerial approval, and payments not authenticated. I bring this up to, tie up the conversation because it has to do with our major institutions in the public sector and the very things that year after year after year after year lead us here. Where do we go from here?
The non-compliance that you've talked about, the irregularities, the lack of due diligence, it's all individuals. They are persons who have the responsibility to make sure that there is budgetary discipline, fiscal discipline. There are people responsible to make sure that due diligence is followed. There are people responsible to make sure that we don't have these irregularities. These reports must move to the next level of naming and shaming and sanctioning. We are not going to get any changed scenario for the future if we don't move from the high-level reports and just having a discussion about how bad the situation is. Somehow we seem to have gotten into that thing of we all know what is wrong. Nobody is doing anything about what should be right. Let's identify the individuals who we have paid, because you see their positions and the job descriptions and the tax defined include these issues. And if you've been paid over the years and yet you have not delivered on that mandate, you ought to be fired. Let's make sure that public sector officers who superintend these things get fired, period. We will see a change.
Adam, strong words to end the conversation, at least from your end. We're grateful that you took the time to join us.
And thank you for having me.
Adam Senano is an anti-graft campaigner. Let's bring in now Professor Turkson, who is also going to share his thoughts. Briefly, Prof, so what do you make of the latest Auditor General's report? Over 17 billion in terms of what we've pumped into the public sector, and which have amounted to irregularities. We also have over 1 million paid to supposed staff of the Ministry of Finance, staff who don't even exist, and many more matters arising. Your summary thoughts on the latest report?
Thank you. I think that this is quite unfortunate, but having said that, it's something that we hear every year. These things are not new to us. I'm just wondering why we have not put in place policies to deter such flagrant disregard for government procurement and other issues that would make our public sector efficient. I'm sad that the Ministry of Finance, that is supposed to work together with other institutions to rate the government payroll of ghost names, are themselves the institutions that have ghost names in their midst. And so it's important that we try as much as possible to get this process of Auditor General's report moving beyond just highlighting of these malfeasance, but also to go on if people are found culpable to be prosecuted to serve as a deterrent. But until that is done, I think that this thing will continue, and it's not very good for Ghana.
As an economist, very briefly on this as well, looking at where we find ourselves, economically speaking, the downturn and everything, going to the IMF, just how much damage do you feel all of this is doing to us, the state's kitty, and to ordinary Ghanaians?
I mean, that is what we've always said, that unless we improve on public finances to make sure they are very efficient, and then to rid our public finances of such unnecessary, such wasteful use of our public purse, then the public expenditure that we want to reduce so that we can reduce the fiscal deficit and the piling up of our debt will not end anywhere. I'm very certain that as we approach the IMF, the payroll thing will come up again. And it's something that we need to treat and get rid of once and for all. I've lost a number of times that the cleaning up of the public sector payroll has been on the board anytime we go for reforms. I mean, if we pay lip service to it and we don't do anything about it, I mean, we'll go to the fund, get out of the fund, and go back to the fund again. It's important, and especially a situation where parties part some of the state-owned enterprises with their party supporters to get them jobs. I think that we need to take a look at this. I mean, some of these institutions should be made to run on their own books so that they are very efficient in terms of employment, so that we can rid the public sector not only of these institutions that are burden to our public purse, but to make them more efficient, to be more profitable, even though they are state-owned enterprises. So not until we begin to look at some of these things, I think that when you listen to the amount of money that is lost alone, and the fact that we need to reduce our public expenses, then we ask ourselves to what end, where are we going to get with all of these speech and talk and all discussion about what the problem is and what we need to do? Because our extent to which we can mobilize revenue has not kept a pace with our expenditure. So if we will go on and not put in place processes that would discourage such inefficient use of our public purse, then I'm afraid, I mean, it's all talk and nothing will happen to our public purse. And we'll be where we are every time. We get support from the IMF, we move out, we go there, we still do the things that we are not supposed to do, and then we come back. It is, at times when you listen to some of these things,
right,
you ask yourself if you're ever going to make it.
If we're ever going to make it, that's the question. Well, let's stay on the subject of money, Bernice, but this time we'll be talking about the 750 million Afrexim Bank money that we've got. And it's supposed to be focused on infrastructure development and the rest. But of course, we also know that it's meant to stabilize
basically budget support for us. I mean,
exactly.
And it's well, we may want to call it the first tranche of some $1 billion we expected to receive. And we know, I mean, this is no news, the current state of our economy and the fact that we cannot even borrow domestically and all the other angles.
The Eurobond market has been shut
to us. And so this is, like others have described it, it's while we wait for the IMF, this was almost like a do or die for us, and we needed the money. But let me find out from you, Prof. You've been talking about how we don't appear to be managing our finances well. And anytime we go to get support from the IMF and other international institutions, it always comes up. It's always a problem for us when we are trying to get some of these approvals. In the face of what we are experiencing as a country, would you say, like others have said, that pending the IMF approval, this was the only option that we had?
I mean, I don't think that the main reason for going for the African Exim Bank facility was to stabilize our currency, although indirectly that is what is going to happen. I think that we also need to expand our infrastructure. I mean, the capital markets have been closed to us, but we have infrastructure deficit that we need to close. We are building an economy out of what happened in COVID. And so as we restructure our economy to build a resilient economy, we need to put in place infrastructure. So it's refreshing that we've got this money to build up our infrastructure. But of course, once the loans come in, it increases the reserves of the central bank and allows the central bank to intervene in trying to provide support for those who demand the forex for various reasons. So yes, it's coming at the right time as we prepare to go to the fund. These loans, when they come in, would help the central bank to build up its reserves and to be able to support the demand for forex. And that alone is part of the reason why the CD has shown some appreciation. Don't forget that there are a lot of speculative activities that have sent the CD to the level that it's gotten to. And so when the CD begins to appreciate, as the appreciation is sustained over a period of time, speculators will begin to sell what they bought formerly. And that itself will also hasten the pace at which the CD will recover and appreciate. So we are looking forward for a cocoa syndicated loan to also come in so that we are able to get rid of all the speculators. And I think that when we begin to get such inflows, the city will find its own level and the speculative activities. Right? Don't forget that the central bank on its own is also doing other things with the oil companies and other mining companies to buy some of their forex that they normally retain offshore to build up our reserves and have the central bank have a similar impact in terms of stabilizing the Ghanaian cedi. So these are other efforts. And if you listen to what has gone on over the past few weeks, we are aware that forex bureaus are not doing business as the law requires them to do. And they are part of the reasons why the currency has been depreciating. Remember, the head of financial stability issued a warning at the central bank not long ago about those who are dealing in foreign rates on the forex market and so on and so forth. And the fact that some forex bureaus are not issuing out receipts when people come to do business, they are not asking for ID cards and all of that. And so people are taking advantage of the lapses in our forex bureau transactions to also push up the depreciation. And over the last 2 weeks, we've seen the central bank and the law enforcement agencies making a swoop on some of the forex bureaus to get them to do the right thing. These are all sort of things that would help stabilize the city because of the unnecessary demand that has come up lately because economic agents want to insulate themselves by keeping their savings in a more stable currency when they don't need to do that. And so these are all the reasons that are to blame, apart from the fact that the global economy itself is going through challenges and the dollar has become the safe haven. So most investors are running into the dollar. And so not only is the Ghana cedi struggling to hold its its strength against the dollar, but even the euro and then the British pound are also suffering the same fate. So, I mean, these are the interim measures that I think that if it's done properly and we pursue it, we would be able to appreciate the cedi even as we enter into the negotiations with the fund.
Prof, those who say that this government has, in their words, overborrowed, and so we owe so much as a country, help us understand. There are infrastructure needs that must be met. As we know it, our debt stock keeps rising. Is it a prudent decision at this time to borrow for infrastructure?
Yes. When you borrow for infrastructure, it doesn't matter how high your debt is. When you borrow for infrastructure expansion, what you are doing is that you are positioning your country at a point where it is going to expand to raise more revenue, to raise a higher output, so that it positions your country at a point that it is able to pay for its debt. So there's nothing wrong with it, even if our debt to GDP ratio is high, and we go borrowing to expand the productive capacity of the economy. In fact, that is what we need to do. So if the capital markets were available for us now, I would always support the government to go and borrow to expand the productive capacity of this economy, no matter how high our debt to GDP ratio is. Because don't forget that that ratio is the debt over the GDP. And so if we expand the productive base of the economy and GDP grows faster than the rate at which we borrow, our debt to GDP ratio will decline. Our tax revenues, which is a proportion of our output, would increase. Our debt, in terms of our fiscal deficit, will decline. And our debt will be moving on the path of what we call sustainability. So that is what we need. In fact, one of the solutions to the current situation we find ourselves is for us to benefit from such loans like the Afrexim Bank loan to go and expand the domestic capacity of our economy, attract more firms to come in, produce, employ, tax, and then expand the economy. And that is a sure way to go. I mean, if we are going to look forward at bringing our debt levels down, what we need currently is an expansion and productive capacity of the economy. So that shouldn't be a problem. There are countries that are heavily indebted more than Ghana, but nobody talks about them because they have the economy that can get them out of any situation that they find themselves because they have the base that can service the debt. So what is important is expanding that base, and that is what we need to do as we speak.
So, Prof, how long should we expect to see this positive impact on this infrastructure drive that we are on to help boost the economy?
We are not going to see that in the short term. I mean, when you expand infrastructure, it would attract investors, it will make doing business cheaper, it will expand output and all of that. But you see, that is our problem. We've always looked for short-term solutions to the problems that we have. The problems that we have as a country now will need medium to long-term solutions. And so if we begin to put in place those solutions, though they might not necessarily begin to show benefits initially, we know definitely that if you build a rail line from Takoradi to Tema, if you build a rail line from Takoradi to the north, and we get our roads expanded and send infrastructure to the areas of this country where we have agricultural endowments and we can add value to them, what we'll be doing is to be exporting higher value addition. We'll be creating jobs. We will also be looking at substituting for overdependence on import because you're adding value to agricultural output and certain things like food juices and agro-processed goods, we don't need to import them. These are the sort of things that we need to do currently and hope that in the immediate future, not the present, we are going to see the benefits of that. I mean, if you look at what has happened over the years in terms of the energy investment that we did and all of that, and the business processes that we are reforming, you could see that we have become an attractive destination for certain multinational global giants deciding to come to Ghana to set up assembly plants and all other productive ventures to be the production base in West Africa and possibly in Africa as this after kicks in. So these are the sort of things that we need to do. So don't let us be looking at short-term interventions that are only meant to get rid of problems now, but do not solve the problems from the base. To be looking more at encouraging our government to go in for such loans to expand the productive capacity of this economy. That is the only way Ghana can get out of the present situation we find out. That is the only way we can become self-sufficient, export-oriented, and then we begin to take our role in Africa, West Africa, especially in Africa, as one of the giants of this continent.
Prof, hold for us. I'll come to you with a few questions, but let me bring in Benjamin Akakpo, National Welfare Director of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. He joins us via phone. And this question I posed to him, I'll pose to you as well, Prof, but I'll start with Benjamin. I believe I heard you yesterday, Mr. Yeboah, talk about the economic fortunes of our country moving forward. We have the $750 million, that's the Afrexim bank loan. We're expecting, and that is out of $2 billion we're expecting. There's also the $1.3 billion cocoa syndicated loan we're expecting. The IMF come next year could be giving us as much as $3 billion. I heard you suggest that this would be the panacea, if you like, to our economic woes. Is that correct?
Well, it's great to be on your platform this morning, my brother. Yeah, the thing is, not necessarily being the panacea. Like Prof has enumerated, this can give us that relief, that short-term relief. Now, if we are looking at the long-term, medium to long-term, then we have to look at all the variables that put that demand on our forex, the constant demand for the dollar, and that is critical. But if we don't look at those issues that are causing this perennial or cycle, then we can have this short-term painkiller thing, and then we come back again. We take 4 steps back, and then about 6 steps forward. And I don't think that would be right. So looking at all the variables, those are very important things that we have to check. The more reason why we are getting ourselves more into it by having that committee with the Council of State.
Let me ask you this as well. You suggested, and this is crucial to the work you do. Yesterday, we saw the CD appreciating against the dollar, especially by 0.2%. But you consider that since January, the CD has lost to the dollar and other currencies about 35% of its value. And on the back of the $750 million, we are seeing this appreciation. How happy, how excited are you about it? What does it mean for you in the business community?
I wouldn't say we are excited per se. We are just a little relief that, the downward trend has, at least ceased. So that is what it is. It's a painkiller that is just giving us a short-term relief. Like I said, we would rather look at the medium long term as to how we can sustain this thing, and then rather reverse that, increasingly depreciation. And how can we do that to sustain it and ensure that we don't come back to this problem again? Like Prof said, it's not the first time we are having some, money being injected into the system. So what has been the problem? Like what Prof was also saying and what we've also heard by, BOG doing its own thing, trying to buy some funds from this extractive industry, and then bringing GIPC in. They're checking these, investment laws as to how these foreign investors are adhering to our investment. Second, these sub-region banks to make sure that they are really going by what the tenets that are being spelled out by the central bank, by also ensuring that the forex are being really checked to go by what they've been directed to do. Taking the black market to ensure that either we eradicate them if they are not to be there by law. These are some of the variables we have to be looking at. Otherwise, we will come back to the same cycle, my brother.
So we have the $750 million, Benjamin, is purely meant for infrastructure. Prof has walked us through how that will feed into stabilizing our economy. But it will also shore up the cedi to ensure that that run on our currency does not continue. But the very things you speak of, are you optimistic that we'll be able to stabilize the cedi to the point where you in the business community can conduct your business without being so worried about the fluctuations of the currency? Because like some of you have said, you can't even, purchase goods like you were before, because you would contract on something today, by next week the figures have changed. How optimistic are you in that respect?
Yeah, we are a bit optimistic because this time around we want to be part of how we are looking at the solution. You see, either we will be told of what is going on, like the Section 750, and that will be it. But then this time around we want to be part. That as we go along the way, we have these interactions with these various, government institutions per the mandate of the Council of State, so that we see exactly what they're also doing. Then if we have some questions, we also put it to them. So together along the way, we look at all these things. Other than that, like I said earlier, it will be some relief, yes, but then how are we sure that these are going to go into the real, areas that we've asked them to take it, and then also to ensure that we get things the way we want. So before we realize, we say that, and then the monies have been siphoned out. So that is more important to us, for us to be part of the solution along the way, so that we can feel that confident that yes, we are doing the right things, looking at all the variables.
Right.
Otherwise, my brother, I'm afraid.
Let me just rope in. I said that I would throw that question to Prof as well. So looking at the sums, the different tranches of money we are hoping to get, 750 million out of the 2 billion we've secured, 1.3 billion by way of the cocoa syndicated loan. There's the expectation from the IMF early next year, hopefully, that would get the 3 billion. Is this enough to shore up our economy? And I want you to add to that the case that is made by Dr. Attoforsen concerning this 750 million and the fact that some 37 million can't be accounted for. We're told it's gone into an escrow account and that it will be used for debt servicing. But Dr. Attoforsen insists that there is no such provision in the contract proper. Can you shed some light on that issue as well? Hello, Professor Turkson.
Amount of forex that we expect will not solve the perennial problem of administration. We are import dependent, and we need to shed off that dependence as soon as possible. And so initiatives like the 1D1F and others in terms of expanding agriculture outputs are the key things that we need to be looking at. We need to equip our domestic producers with the support that they need to be competitive at producing import substitutes. Because when we reduce our reliance on imports, a greater chunk of the demand for the forex that causes our cedi to depreciate will be taken off. And if we begin to add value, it also means that we can export more and not rely only on the traditional exports that we have. So that in itself, if we do it well, would ensure that our cedi will remain relatively stable. So the first answer to your question is that, yes, for the short term, the amount of resources that we're expecting would be able to support efforts to stabilize the currency. No doubt about that. And like I said to you, there are a lot of speculation that is going on. That in itself will burst, and then it will give way to selling the forex that they have accumulated over the time just for capital gains. And that itself would appreciate the currency. So we are looking for a currency that will drop back, not necessarily to where it started off from at the beginning of the year, but there will be some substantial appreciation of the CD, given all the efforts that the central bank is putting in place and other efforts that are being done. But the main reason, apart from our import dependence, is also the fiscal challenges that we have in this economy. Not until we are able to reduce our fiscal deficits to very low levels. If we keep on running huge fiscal deficits, our debts will become unsustainable. We will not have access to good money on the capital markets. And then when that happens, even investors that are in our economy will want to send their money out. That in itself is one of the main reasons why our city has depreciated this year. So the main reason for the current situation that we have has been the past 2 years where we've run fiscal deficits cumulatively for the past 2 years of well over 20%, which means that by the beginning of 2020, if our debt to GDP ratio was around 50%, it had, within just 2 years, increased to over 70%. And that is why we found ourselves where we find ourselves now. And if that goes on and our revenues are not also expanding, you find out that the debt service is taking up all the revenue that we have. So the domestic revenue that we raise, we are not able to even support capital expenditure. And that in itself is also making it difficult for us to expand our economy. So this whole thing is like a cycle. And the only way you can break the cycle is if we do something about our fiscal challenges. Let us rationalize our expenditure. What are the expenditure items that we can do something about so that our fiscal deficits will reduce, so that we show our investors that we are making credible initiatives to consolidate our fiscal position, so they don't need to be worried about giving us their money. When we begin to do this and investors have confidence, they are going to have an upgrade from the rating agencies, and that is a signal to them that they need to stay. But if we do not do anything about it, and just this morning what you are hearing from the Auditor General is anything to go by, then our investors will not have any confidence that this is a country that is serious about doing something about this fiscal position. The rate at which you can raise revenue cannot keep a pace with the sort of expenditure that is going on now. The government has to do something about it. We need to take a look at, for instance, the free SHS. Let us properly target the free SHS. Let us do some savings there. Let us look at other initiatives like the size of government. And we cut down the size of government. These are all initiatives that will give a signal to the investors that Ghana is doing something about its fiscal position.
Right.
That we are trying to consolidate. When they get that clear signal, the rating agencies will come up. Go and read the reasons why they downgrade us. And these are the sort of things that we have been asking government to do over the years.
Okay.
When you do that, you're not going to get that downgrade in your ratings. And when you don't get a downgrade, you are better off because investors have confidence in giving their money at a very lower rate. And then if you need to expand the productive base of the economy, you can go on a roadshow, sell bonds, get the money, come and use it to expand the productive base of the economy.
Right, Prof. Just the second...
That is at the center of our problems.
Right. The second aspect of my question, very briefly, I asked about the 750 million and supposedly are not getting 37 million. The explanation is that it's being put in an escrow account. Others dispute that. What is the usual process that happens when we get such loans?
I mean, so once the loans have come in, the point is that I'm not too sure what the government means by that, but let me take it from this angle. Supposing we have certain interest payments to make in Forex, if the government is putting that money down, then it means that it is going to have to provide the CD equivalent for whatever the money was supposed to do as part of building up our infrastructure. So per the contract, if the money was meant for infrastructure, the whole amount is supposed to go to expanding our infrastructure, not to service any interest payments or whatever it is. But I'm saying that if these interest payments are going to be made in forex, then the government can still ask the central bank to put part of it there, and the government, through its revenue, will be able to raise the cedi equivalent to support what infrastructure that is going to build. That is what I think. But if that money is being put there and there's not going to be a cedi counterpart that will be released for that infrastructure support, then I think that Parliament has to look into it and find out why that is done. I'm not a parliamentarian, I'm not a lawyer, but this is my layman's understanding of what I think the issue that you raised can be explained. So it's left for Parliament to find out from government if whatever money has been put aside, that money will be made out of government revenue to support whatever infrastructure it is going to put up. And that can easily be resolved.
Prof, so let's just move away a bit and talk about the general economic situation in the country. So yesterday, there was some sort of good news about the cedi's performance against the dollar, and people were excited. Some have said it's early day, yes. Some have said it's a good indication. It's a sign that the cedi will begin to perform better. But from where you sit, looking at this, even this amount that we've received that is expected to, among other things, help the cedi perform better against the dollar. Where do you stand? Do you stand with those who say that it's early days yet, or do you believe that this is a sign of good things to come?
I mean, I believe strongly that the cedi will gain back its value. It might not necessarily go back to where it was. And I know certainly that there's a significant amount of speculative activities involved in where the cedi has gotten to. I mean, if the support that is coming to build in our reserves would enable the central bank to continue to intervene, to stabilize the currency, appreciate it over a period of time, I'm sure that the speculative bubble will burst. Speculators will begin to sell off. Our cedi will gain. It happened in 2014. It's something that will happen. But it is how the central bank is able to sustain that stability that would depend. And I'm very certain that that is going to happen sooner than later. So if you ask me, I'll say yes, the currency will get back to where we have come from, not necessarily where it started from. But also for us to also have confidence that the managers of the economy are doing something about what is going on. At times I hear a lot of pessimistic sentiments being thrown out there. Ghana is not out of the woods yet, but given the current initiatives that the central bank is doing and all of other things that are being done, we expect that the cedi will get back some of its lost value. So we should have that confidence, and people should at least stop hoarding the forex because they expect that things are going to get worse. Things are going to get better. In future, you'll be able to buy the dollar cheaper than it is now. So if you need it in future, hold on. You can invest your money in T-bill or something, and then whatever returns you get from the T-bill would add some value to your savings. Don't go to run into the dollar because very soon the country will go to the fund. The fund will give us enough reserves that will enable the central bank to. So these are the sort of things that, if you ask me, I'll tell you my personal impressions about what is going to happen. We don't need to panic at all. Yes, things are hard, and it's all over the world. I mean, if you're listening to the UK and so on and so forth, you find that people are going through a lot. We don't need to panic. We need to keep our heads cool. And certainly, once our policymakers are showing credible commitment to solving the issues, I think that once we gain the confidence of investors and economic agents, things will stabilize. We've been along this road before.
Yeah.
It's something that we can do. And I'm very optimistic that we'll be able to solve this problem.
You sound very optimistic, Prof, and the statement you made, we've been here before, brings me to my next question. Because at the time we decided to go back to the IMF, a lot of articles popped up about Ghana's history with the IMF and how we had told ourselves time without number that we were not going to go back, but we find ourselves in a certain cycle which appears unending. So, not to downplay your optimism or the optimism of any other Ghanaian, but how do we ensure that this loan facility we've gotten, coupled with the others that are yet to come in, including the IMF support, take us to the point of growth where we see that at least we are able to sustain ourselves as a people and we don't have to go back for support in 2, 3, 4, or 5 years' time?
Thank you. I mean, I think that this IMF thing here, we shouldn't take it out of context. Of course, the IMF has been set up to support countries when they go through balance of payment challenges. At times, it doesn't matter how well they are doing. External factors can cause such occurrences to happen for you to go to the fund for support. But I think that more often than not, in the Ghana case, it has been because of our internal management issues. That's why we want the fund for support. There's nothing wrong with going to the fund for support. But the problems that send us there are problems that keep on occurring, and we seem not to do anything about it, unfortunately. And for me, it's a concern. One of the issues has always been the fact that our public sector payroll is bloated with ghost names. I remember the last time I went to the IMF, there was a cap on public sector employment and the cleaning of the payroll. I'm as a public sector worker, I've lost the number of counts where I'm going to take my biometric for the accountant general to ensure that I'm still at post. I've had to show my certificates and the sort of work I'm doing in the university. We've done that over and over. But it seems that maybe when the IMF comes in, we clean their payroll. When they leave, we bloat it again with ghost names. I mean, not until people get punished for their negligence and for that bloating of the payroll. I mean, these things will go on. How many times have we had anybody being sent to court and jailed because of the waste of the public purse? Nobody gets punished. And so every year we hear the Auditor General, this happened here, this happened there, nothing happens. So it means that if we do not do the things that we are supposed to do so that we don't go to the IMF, then it doesn't matter the number of times they be here, I'm very certain that they will go and come back. And one of the reasons why I think that this has happened has been the fact that our governments have lacked the political will to make those very difficult choices that will get Ghana out of the woods. And those choices are left so that when there are problems, we run to the fund, and the fund is seen to be the one that is making us go through those difficult choices, because our politicians don't want to make those difficult choices. We don't need to go to the fund to know that we need to clean our public sector. We don't need to go to the fund to know that we need to rationalize our expenditure. We don't need to go to the fund to know that as we speak, our public purse is not good, our domestic revenue is not doing well, and so some of the social interventions that are meant to give out freebies, we should hold on to some of them. Indiscriminate subsidies, we should hold on to them. Target the subsidies. These are the sort of things that we can do. We don't need a fund to tell us that don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. We know. I don't think the guys from the fund who come here to lead these reforms know better than those of us in this economy. So I think that the political will to carry out some of these difficult choices is what is missing in our political dispensation. And that is why we get to that point every time. I mean, the last time the IMF left, some of us asked that let us keep the cap on public sector employment and only look at the critical areas that we need to employ and employ. But we know of state enterprises where there has been huge employment there. And these are the sort of things that balloon the wage bill.
And these employments, are you suggesting that?
Democracy.
Sorry, Prof.
Unemployment cannot be solved by the public sector.
Sorry, Prof.
The public sector is supposed to provide the enabling environment for the private sector to try to generate the employment opportunities for the youth to go and work in there. It is not the public sector's job to be employing. The public sector should be able to make it very convenient for the private sector to employ by reducing the cost of doing business, by ensuring that we provide enough support for the private sector to do this. We cannot have a public sector increasing its size of employment, ballooning the public sector payroll, and then that would take up all the revenue when you have interest payments and compensation. Almost every revenue that we collect is gone. When we keep on doing that, it means that we are always going to run deficits. We are going to balloon our national debt. And it will take us to where we are. These are very simple solutions that we can do something about. And I think that the democracy that we are running, I mean, I don't mean that democracy is not good, it is good. I think that the type of, the structure of the democracy that we run is also too expensive. I mean, as we speak, Parliament is looking at expanding the number of members of Parliament. Do we need that? I'll say no. This is not the time. We either need to expand the economy, generate output, to grow the Ghanaian economy. And when you have enough revenue and our debts are low, if you want to expand Parliament, we can do that. If you ask me, what should we do? Maybe we should take a look at reducing the size of Parliament. We should take a look at certain expenditures that we incur. For instance, at every time that there's going to be an election, we need to do a new voters register. Do we need to do that? Can't we get one card that would be there for us to use every time and only enroll those who are not part of the register the previous elections? These are the sort of things that will cost, even if it costs us $30 million to come up with a new voters register. That $30 million could have built healthcare facilities in some rural areas in this country. That will also support in improving healthcare and also making our farmers productive. We need to save every little bit that we can and divert what savings we make into expanding the productive base of our economy. And not until we begin to do some of these things, I'm afraid that the IMF will not bring us any solution that will come to stay. We need to build a resilient economy. And at the center of this is for us to be able to cut our coat according to our size, spend what we collect, don't overspend, and when you are spending, be very rational in your spending, get into the critical areas that will get the economy to expand. And then we move ahead. There's something we can do about this, and the political leadership has to make those very difficult decisions to get us from where we are.
Prof, we're grateful for your time. Let me just bring in Benjamin Yeboah with your wrap-up comments.
Yeah, my brother. So I've been enjoying the conversation. I think Prof has touched on a wide range of issues. The critical ones being helping the private sector to grow, i.e. support. And support can be in various forms, good policies, less interest rates on loans that we take, and then pushing in tax-related funding. Those are key. And then there's this other issue about, excessive imports. Like we indicated, Guta members do not import that much, and therefore the majority of import into the country is not by, let's say, Guta or Guta-related traders. And these should be checked critically. As traders, we buy and sell, and therefore we do not necessarily have to import. Anywhere that we can get a push and sell and make our margins, we are okay. And therefore, it's critical that we look at within ourselves, our manufacturing base. Like we said, if, like Prof was indicated, 1D, 1F, the government should help it in terms of exposure, exposing it more to Canadian traders, so that these B2B, business to business that we usually have with foreign entities, there should be that platform created by, let's say, government through the Ministry of Trade for us to have B2B with the industries here. So we have about 125, that's what we've been told, of these 1D, 1F factories. So where are they? What are they putting up? It's when we beat them, then we can know their packaging, we can know their pricing. If their pricing is not good, we can point it out to them and tell them, look, your price is not good because we can get it outside cheaper. So what is the problem? Then they can begin to question government as to what they can do about it in terms of cost of production, i.e. being utilities or their cost of borrowing. These are critical. And last but not the least, checking these malls that we have. We have so many malls that are being run by foreign nationals. At least for something, we should have some policy. They have about 30% of their shelf line being locally produced items. These are medium to long term that can help, our city grow in strength and then reduce that excessive demand on it. I think these are some things that if we look at, will be on the right path.
Thank you, Mr. Yeboah. Benjamin Yeboah is National Welfare Director of GUTA. He joined us on phone. We also had Professor Ebo Turkson, an economist at the University of Ghana. Before them, we had Edem Senanu, an anti-graft campaigner. To all of you gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the conversation. But this is how far we have come as far as the Auditor General's report and the $750 million we've got from the Afrexim Bank is concerned. I guess, like I usually say, only time will tell.
Definitely. And, earlier when I spoke to Professor Turkson about whether it was prudent to take a loan to invest in infrastructure, he gave his explanation why it makes sense. But if you want to know the list of infrastructure that are going to be, that the loan is going to be used for, you can check it out on myjoy9.com. It's quite a list, but we have roads in there. We have part of the Agenda 111, which has to do with hospitals at various districts and so many more. So you can just furnish yourself with the details. And, this is Joy News. We'll be following up to check the progress of those particular projects. Yeah. And hopefully the money will be used for what it was taken for. Well, Benjamin has a mischievous smile on his face, but it's now time to take a breather. We'll go drink some water. Hope you get some too, but we'll be back shortly with AM Business for you. And don't forget, today we get interactive with you, so do stay.
Today, a gram of 90 grams, that is the high bulk, is costing 690 and 850 Ghana cedis. But for the period of 3 months, it has increased over 500 Ghana cedis.
Those were the calls of the Bookbinders Association of Ghana. They are expressing concerns over high cost of operations due to the rising inflation in the country and are threatening to halt the printing of exercise books. Decided to visit one of the factories in Accra where the binding of these books are done. There I met Mr. Amuzu, who is a member of the Bookbinders Association of Ghana, for some engagement. Right, so we are in one of the factories of bookbinding here in Accra. We want to know what really goes into the binding of these books for students out there. I have here the owner of the factory to speak to. But first and foremost, he will be taking me through some of the process. Where do we start from to where we end? Mr. Amuzu, we have a call here. But this time we see a lot of issues near there. But answer the issues, what goes into the making or the binding of the books in Ankasa? Most of the thing you
you got paper now, paper you got say, and that here. I share a bit of size here.
30-40. Indian.
These are some of the basic components we employ to create our books. At the industrial sector, we obtain the papers from a retailer. The papers are from India and imported. We have a device called the puller machine that is used for the marks on the books when we bring the papers in here.
That's margin lines. Wait to me, but you use machine margin lines. Into margin lines here. Now some Arabic rule, line blue lines now, a woman now. After saying no, you better sign at the you rule here. You better go back to puller machine. No, as I go to chum. Now, if you chum here, that's it. You have to food na ya.
Okay, but me who say, oh, you be there for one.
Onuna, open paper no fa machine no. Ema lines in the bar. Into ono you ruling operator. O find the say ya. Bebre, obe food ni bebre. Now time they go back to puller machine.
When we are done marking it, we return it to the puller machine to fold and cut the papers into desired shapes. He controls the ruling machine to make sure the books are in order. This man is the ruling operator.
You do glue. Baya atuno. Se na baya ebe som solid. Un say we glue na so muntino. Un say ubie mo kra enwie. Na amana ye solid. Enti owia opam wia e ba baya say see. Or the glue no ba fa atuno. Or the glue ne fa kuno na ye solid see na. Na fe ye de cloth no. Ye use glue. Glue.
Normal glue and which glue?
Wood glue, wood chem.
Oh, okay.
Wood chem.
Okay.
And you use.
Amuzu has been in this business for more than 30 years. In my engagement with him, he explained that their planned strike has hinged on the high cost of raw materials for book production, as well as importation of finished notebooks and exercise books.
Notebook, exercise book, graph, sketch money at the that is only the field. But if far textbook there, I want you field. Now you today be as a buy sir. Other books sir, you fan comma way schools. You maybe I'm your books no. You maybe a books no. Every.
What we do are notebooks, exercise books, and graph books. We do not publish textbooks. We frequently hear that government is producing books, but we are unsure of the source. The government hasn't given us any compensation. For us, things are quite difficult.
Said the that sanity, and you hear BBM fee about this. A Jumani money dear. Anka, people ain't to me cassa a buono and costume. But say the other dear, said the air corner, and we had thing. And we had thing. Me, ma. Book way, size we are, meditate way. January, book way, January, near Tono, 6 cities. 6 cedis.
Previously priced at 6 cedis, this book is now 10 cedis. Currently, a full scalp notebook costs 12 cedis, up from 8 cedis in January.
January, 8 cedis, but 12 cedis.
How about exercise books?
Exercise book. Now, before, now single, bako. Without cover, 1 CD 20 pesos. Says here 2 CD 50 pesos.
With respect to the current economic challenges, he indicated that non-existing incentives for the industry and high import and taxes on bulk printing is killing the industry.
Name taxes are
Omode atutu eniema no so a ema paper boy no kosoro. It because of say you see dollar.
Taxes on the importations of these papers are huge, and the importers are also extorting money from us, indicating that the dollar is not stable, so they predict the forex rate for us.
Na adwuma na ye no omo ye no na no omo aye ni books no so ebo no e ma niam na ekosoro ni ti no ena me ba ko school a book me ye books o enso okodu school a ye se je me koto book no school e ma me ba ni school je me koto school.
Though I am a bookseller, the schools forbid me from giving some of the books to my children, even though I would have liked to.
Na how ba kokura wo mukura ne say book we say the call can she 10 cities. Obi ko for can she the call wale a or be call 15. Wale ni no ba ko ton no 20 cities. Enti no o how no am yet day.
Kwame Appiagyei, the chairman for the association, claimed that the government has failed to factor the association's view in its policy interventions.
It's affecting us heavily and it's going to worsen our plight. It's going to worsen the situation. If they are going to implement this tariff, it's going to worsen everything. It's so serious. Because this bigger machine, if you buy 200 cedis worth of power, within a week, of a gun, and we are going to factor all this into our final product, so you can imagine. That's why this book about 6 months ago is 4 cedis, but currently we are pricing it 10 cedis. Our end.
So that's the general price.
General price from our end. Okay. That's what I'll call it for factory price. So when it reaches the middleman to the retailers, then you are just as best as mine.
He further called on the Ministry of Education and other stakeholders to support and revive the industry. He entreated government to take a second look at bookbinding.
We are now calling the government to come into our aid, especially the 1D, 1F. In Ghana here, if you say factory, you think factory is a big building, but here's a factory what? Because what we are producing, so we need incentive. We don't need the structure because we have the structure already. So we need incentive, soft loan, and then if the government can also pump in the dollar so that it will stabilize the what do you call it? It stabilize the inflation, and then it also reduce the cost of the raw material, so that we can take care of our workers. Look, if I close this shop and turn out these young guys, what are they going to be? Some of them will enter into a situation that maybe I will be comfortable. Not these guys alone. We have casual. I mean, when the school vacates, the senior high, the junior highs, we employ them and give them something to support their parents. So please, we are doing everything possible to support the government, especially Nana. He has the vision to educate Ghanaian child. You need to applaud that. But we want to tell him, without our work, we have the qualified teachers, we have the qualified lecturers, but if the learning materials is not available, how are he going to succeed? So we are pleading with him that you need to come to our aid. Like what we are saying, that this is the time we need to engage the government. Maybe the government don't know that we have such an institution or such association that can also support his mandate or support him to deliver. So we are in the process to meet the government and then share ideas together.
show. It's now time to talk about an interesting project, the Law Challenge. And to help us do that, I've got Reverend Moses Ansabano Ankra. He is the lead consultant for the Law Challenge, and Bernard Ajaman, brand promoter for the same project. Good morning to you, gentlemen, and thank you for joining the show.
Good morning. Good morning.
Right, okay, so first off, let me start with you, Rev. Tell us what the Law Challenge is about.
Thank you, and good morning to your cherished viewers. The Law Challenge Ghana is basically an educational quiz program involving the law faculties in the country as a platform to generate competitive spirit among the law faculties and also to promote a healthy academic rivalry among the law faculties towards the need to ensure that the law is brought to the doorstep of every Ghanaian. Basically, that's the Law Challenge.
Interesting. So what format does it take? I've seen on TV, but just tell us how it works. How do you go to these faculties? How do you engage the young people? And how do they eventually appear on television?
Thank you. Basically, we involve the faculties and the law student unions. Every faculty has a law student union. So we normally deal with the deans of the faculties and the president or the executives of the law student union. What happens is that the registration is free of charge. We write to the various law faculties and we invite them into the community. This is our third season. This year is going to be the third season we are having. So we write to them. Then they, using their own internal mechanism, select the best student to come and represent their faculty. And that's what has happened over the years.
Let me come to you. You're the brand promoter.
Yes.
He says this has been running for 3 seasons. What's the feedback you've received so far?
In fact, it's been awesome. Good morning, Benis. It's been very, very awesome. You know, I deal directly with corporate Ghana. And in fact, whenever I go back to corporate Ghana, in fact, the feedback they give us on this project is so awesome. In fact, they tell us that, you know, what the Law Challenge sought to achieve, as they follow, they see that we are gradually getting there. What do we sought to achieve is to bring law to the doorstep of the Ghanaian. And it will surprise you to know that the general public now is becoming pocket lawyers. Why? Because, you know, they sometimes see law as very far away from them. And we do not want the general public to also see law as, you know, classified that this is a reserve or a privilege for certain class of people. But we want to open it up and make everyone to become a law, kind of a law student in quote. So in fact, for corporate Ghana, it's been awesome. For the academia, it has also been awesome because we visit some campuses to do 1 or 2, you know, receive feedbacks, and they tell us that it has even generated kind of some competitive spirit among law students. In fact, so our sponsors are always happy, and I can say that they are great to come on board, and some have even told us that they will own this project forever.
Yes. That's a good one. So you say that what this has done for you through feedback is a simplified law.
Yes.
So that the ordinary person can understand. So when the program appears on television, you usually see that from different faculties across the law schools, you have 2 representatives. Yeah. Is it a debate format? Is it question and answers? How does the quiz, how does it present on television?
Yeah, basically the first and the second edition was a question format quiz. But this year's edition, the grand finale will be moot competition, which will basically be debate among the finalists.
Okay, and when you say moot, does that mean that they're going to simulate a court session where you have a case and they're debating and the lawyers are advancing arguments? Is that what's going to happen?
Yes, that is going to happen. That is exactly what is going to happen.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's very, very interesting. So,
and to add to that, I mean, basically, the moot, we are looking at a real case scenario where both, finalists will be arguing for or against. It's more like a debate in court. We have the lawyer for the defendant. We have the lawyer for the plaintiff. So that's how it's going to be. It's going to be an appeal, case. The case that have been, adjudicated upon, and one is not happy, and the person has gone to the next step, which is appeal. And so we are having His Lordship Justice, Eriche Bafuo, a Court of Appeal judge, who will be presiding over the moot court, which is the grand finale. There's not going to be, quiz or questions. Purely, we want to develop the advocacy skills of these students before they get there as oral. We believe that the Law Challenge is supposed to help shape the minds of heroes, legal heroes in the country, and that's our objective.
It's a very interesting project. How was it birthed? How did the idea come?
It's quite an interesting question. Yes, it was, by the grace of God, I'm a lawyer. Whilst I was preparing for doing my LLB, in one of my exams preparation, I was there when, the news of failure at the various entrance exams keep on all over the, media. So the doctors came. So what can, we do to be able to address this problem? Because when there's a problem, there must be a solution. So I was just there and the thought came. So I called one or two, friends, and I said, look, this is what I feel strongly about this. Can we put something together? So quickly, we were able to, coin the idea, look, let's, create a platform so that students beyond the lecture rooms, they will have, a forum, they will have a place or a resource tool to be able to improve upon this failure that, is all over the news. So that's how the idea came out. And since then, corporate Ghana and academia, my lecturers and judges, were so excited, and they said, look, this is a good thing which will help, reduce the failure rate as far as the law.
So that was to solve a problem.
Exactly.
So you've been called to the bar?
Yes, please.
So you're a reverend lawyer?
Yes.
So tell us what the challenges have been. I know how some of these things work when you have to try and get sponsorship. Tell us the most exciting and the most challenging moments for the Law Challenge so far.
Yes, let me deal with the positive first. The most exciting is that the faculties have embraced the whole concept, and they think that is the way forward. And so they themselves, before even they are calling you, when is the next edition coming on? We are preparing. So that's where I get my excitement, or we get our excitement. And the challenge, we all know, because it's a baby project. Definitely, no Ghanaians as we are waiting for the thing to become big before we associate ourselves, to them. So that's the sponsorship aspect is a challenge. But I must say that some few, corporate, bodies have come on board because they see the future of the Law Challenge. They see the potential in this project. So, I can say, it was a challenge, but I'm saying that we will turn into an opportunity.
Yeah. Great. Now, let me come to you, Bernard. Yes. Are you also a lawyer?
No.
Are you training to be a lawyer?
A lawyer under construction.
Okay, I like because I paid particular attention to the shirt you're wearing in that jacket, and it looks like what student lawyers and lawyers wear. Yeah, my little sister is in law school, so I know that. So, tell us what we're supposed to expect this season.
In fact, this season you can't miss it for anything. This season cannot be missed for anything because we've received calls, even from some justices of the Supreme Court, that this year they would sit glued to their televisions to see how students of law exhibit their legal prowess. Okay, So when you have justices of the Supreme Court giving you their blessing, endorsing a program like this, then it tells you it has a long way to go. And we visited some campuses, Legon, Tech, UCC, Moncrest, and I tell you, the challenge is going to be something else.
Right.
But Legon would want to retain. Tech will want to take it back.
Okay.
UCC said they are not going to give a chance to any of the universities. Okay. And Moncrest said, wait and see what is going to happen in this third edition. So it's going to be awesome.
Right.
I challenge all Ghanaians to stay glued to their television and watch the Law Challenge Ghana.
Where can we watch it and at what times? Before you answer that, though, you told me that the first 2 editions had the question and answer format, but in this third edition, you're looking to change it. So what different thing are we going to see in how the students are challenged?
Okay. Basically, from the preliminary up to the semi-finals, it's going to be the same question and answers and question. It's only the grand finals that is going to be pure moot, pure advocacy, where there will be, like I said, there will be a live case scenario where they will be they'll be speaking from both sides of the device, and for the judge to preside over the case. Then we will know who. So that is
going to be a real judge, or because it's moot, you're going
it's a real judge. I'm saying it's Lordship Justice.
Will be the judge.
Yeah, will be the judge.
I thought he was just.
No. I mean, he's going to be the presiding judge over the moot.
Oh wow!
It's a court of appeal judge. It's
nice.
One of the finest judges that we have in the system.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So when are we launching this edition, and how can people watch the program?
The Season 3 launch is coming off tomorrow at 3 p.m. at Sun Lodge Hotel. 3 p.m. It's 3 p.m. We are officially launching Season 3. Then from 25th to 1st October, the actual competition will be taking place at Gimpa Moot Center, McDonald's Moot Center at Gimpa. And this is the first time an institution is hosting the competition. The intention is that we want to rotate it among the law faculties. And we are lucky that Gimpa this time is the first institution to host the competition. So from 25th to 1st October, law students, lawyers, LLB students who are preparing for the law, Ghana Law School of Law entrance exams should come around, because I can tell them that the question are going to be like the exams. So if you miss the law challenge competition, you'll be missing the exams.
And will this be telecast live on television?
Yeah, it will not be live on television, but after the production, it will be shown on JoyNews. The indispensable JoyNews will be showing it for 13 weeks, so people can follow.
For 13 weeks. All right. So how do interested people who want to learn law, people like students you mentioned who are preparing for the entrance exam to the School of Law, how can they participate in the live session? Is there opportunity for them to come, sit and watch and learn?
Exactly. Students are welcome to participate. LLB holders are also welcome to. It's going to be from 20. The actual competition, the arrival is 25th. We are hosting the contestants. In a very plush hotel. Okay. So they'll be there. We don't want them to be having the hassle of traffic here and there. So we are hosting them throughout the week. Okay. The real competition is starting 26th
of September.
To 8 a.m. Okay. 8 a.m. every day up to 4 p.m.
At the Gimpa Moot Center.
Gimpa Moot Center.
All right.
So please, and students, you are welcome. LLB holders, please preparing for the law, entrance exams. Please, you are welcome to come and pick some, little bit of, knowledge to go once and come out.
I like that. Go once and come out. All right. So quickly, acknowledgements. I know we've been mentioning sponsors, but are there any people that you would like to acknowledge as we wrap up the conversation?
Yes, I will do.
With you and then Rev.
There is a saying that a well-informed society of law is a very developed society or nation. So we upon this, we want to thank, Corporate Ghana. Well, they have been our partners from edition 1 to the into even the 3rd edition, and want to thank Senate that they are considering coming on board to own this project and make it their own. And also want to thank Ghana Standards Authority for owning this project and also coming on board. Commercial Bank, ADB, Casa Precon. Want to thank Corporate Ghana and all private institutions who have shown interest, and individual justices of the Supreme Court, Justice Yone Kulendi, who have shown interest to support this worthy cause. We said God bless them, and we wish them also well. Thank you.
Right, Rev.
But let me also mention that Goy Ghana, they've been awesome. Right from the word go, they were the first a corporate institution that embraced the law challenge. And we want to say thank you to the Chief Executive Officer, who is a senior lawyer. And we want to also thank Sun Lodge, who are hosting the the students. Let me also mention Websys, logistics, movers, who are also supporting us in our publicity and what have you. We also want to say thank you to Amazing Jewelry. I get transport. Enterprise and services. They are providing transportation from moving the student from one location to another in terms of their hotel venue to the program site and into the various tours that they will be doing in course of the week. So I want to say thank you to all of these for coming on board to support us. Websys Technologies, thank you so much for projecting the law challenge on the internet. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you too. And I've been speaking to Bernard Adjiman. He is the brand promoter for the Law Challenge also. And I like to call him Reverend Lawyer. He was trying to be very modest. He didn't want to let me know that he's a lawyer, but somehow we got to find out eventually. Reverend Lawyer Moses Ansabano Ankra. He's the lead consultant for the Law Challenge. Thank you, gentlemen. Wish you all the best. And as they said, it will be airing after production and everything. It will be airing on the JoyNews channel. So it will be advertised and promoted, so you would know and you can make a date. Thank you very much.
We'll be happy to see you.
Yeah.
Tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow.
At Sun Lodge.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much. Bless you for coming through.
Beautiful.
Yes, and you're still watching the AM show. Pretty shortly, Benjamin Akakpo will join me and we'll be taking your thoughts on the major issues we've been discussing so far. We've been talking about the Auditor General's report and all that has come out from that. He's a lawyer and he's training to be a lawyer, so I will not put them on the spot. But we've been talking about some judges that we're told didn't acquire vehicles through the right process. We've been talking about that, and also some amount of money we've received from the Afri-Exim Bank, and hopefully it will help stabilize our economy. So do stay. We'll take your thoughts on these shortly. Good morning to you once again, and Benjamin has joined me. It's now time to get interactive with you here on the AM show. And here's what we'll do. We'll take your calls. The numbers will be on your screen, as you can see now. You can call us, share your thoughts, what we've been discussing so far. We've been talking about this issue of judges cited in the latest Auditor General report for 2021, and they have been cited for the purchase of vehicles contrary to Regulation 158 of the Public Financial Management Regulations 2019. And there are a few of your comments on Facebook. We'll take that while we wait for your calls to come through. But just so you know, we'll also be taking your comments on the money that we've gotten from Afri-Exim Bank and
750 million.
The concerns that whether it is prudent or not to invest that into infrastructure. We've been told by an economist, that it is not a bad idea. It's in fact, it's the way to go if we want a long-term solution to our problem. But let's take your comment on the issue of judges and they buying auctioned vehicles. And this is from Tubani. He says, Akufo-Addo's administration should be studied in schools to prevent future occurrences.
Oh, that's a big.
Papa says, and the same judges will jail the ordinary Ghanaian who contravenes the law. Arrest and prosecute those judges. Okay. And Jojo says, unjust judges be that integrity is hard to find these days. And Isaac Dunwell says, so if JDM says they've lost trust and integrity, you say he's wrong? He's always been vindicated, Benjamin. And that's what he thinks. And Fred laughs and says, those who are to interpret the law are engaging in unlawful dealings. No wonder over the past few years, well, he thinks that their interpretation of the law has been ridiculous. I wonder what Enam's study of the law is, because look, we can all have our opinions. I'm not a student of law. If a colleague lawyer disagrees with the interpretation of another colleague lawyer, that's fair. But I mean, I don't know. But some of these things, sometimes they're technical. But that's why law is what it is, because it allows for debates, it allows for redress, it allows for appeals and all that. So thank you, Enam, for sharing your thoughts with us. Emmanuel says, and these people will rather pass judgment on offenders. And Mark Johnson is asking, so everybody is stealing from Ghana? Edward Kojo Goldman says, our justices should use their privileged estates to push for a fair society, not one that the strong prey on the weak and ignorant. All right, we've got a few calls coming through. Let me go to Cape Coast. Owusu joins us from there. Hello, Owusu. Good morning. Let's hear what you have to say. Hello, Owusu. Well, we'll try and rectify that and speak to Owusu shortly.
Hello.
Hello, Owusu.
Hello. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, thank you for calling.
I feel very serious this morning hearing from the report from the Auditor General.
We lost him. Too bad. We lost Owusu from Cape Coast, but he was saying that he feels or he is furious about the details in the Auditor General's report. But we have Ben from New Achimota. Hello, Ben. Let's hear you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, Ben.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Please, let's hear your contribution.
Okay. There is something I want to say about the judges who were found in that cow offering. You see, we have judges who are supposed to be the one who be on the behalf of the poor in terms of all these things. How can somebody spending a lot of years outside the country bring his or her car, unable to come and clear the car from the port? And the car will be sold at low price as this. And our judges that we see for them to be genuine when it comes to all these things found themselves in the same act, buying all those cars. Like, as a country, where are we heading towards? As a country, where are we heading towards?
Sorry to interject. Hello, Ben.
Yes,
hello. Sorry to interject. I just think that we need to lay the premise right here. So we are not talking about vehicles at the ports that have not been cleared, that are being auctioned. These are vehicles that are owned by government, right? And so they've been used for some time, and then they have been put up for auctioning. So let's just set that premise right. And then, but your concern is that at least they should show some concern when it comes to these matters. And we've actually explored the ethical and the moral angle of this with our guest earlier, Edem Senan, who's an anti-graft campaigner. All right, so that's Ben from New Achimota sharing his thoughts there. But back to Facebook, Jack Apata says, let those still in service resign. And Abe David says, these NPP came to power to destroy the nation, nothing positive. Okay, you won't hear anything positive about this family government, yet when you're quiet, instead of going to Jupiter. All right, I'm not too sure what he's trying to write there.
We definitely can't read that.
Yeah, there's just a bit of a mix-up in there. But those are some comments on what the Auditor General reviewed in his latest report. regarding some judges. But Benjamin, tomorrow is September 1. And there's something major going to hit your pockets, and it's not exciting, and it has to do with tariffs.
Utility tariffs.
Utility tariffs. You're going to be paying more for water and electricity. But here's the caveat, Benjamin. For electricity, we're being told that it is not fixed, as has been announced by the PURC. It will depend on the type of customer or consumer you are.
Yep.
And there are a lot of dynamics. So it may be higher than what has been announced. And some of you have been sharing your thoughts with us on that on social media. But before I take your comments on that, Sami is joining us from Nima. Hello, let's hear you, please.
Hi, good morning, my sister. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Hope you're well too.
I think morally and ethically, I think the judges have to think about how they do things in this country. These are people who have no opportunity to respond to any criticism that we may, make about them. But they keep on finding, putting themselves in those problems. You see, they are more than people who to go for these auction cars because they are well paid. They retire on their retirement thing. So if you have all this opportunity, and you've been hearing about what is happening at the account committee, Parliament account committee, about this auction cars. And before you go for this auction, unless you apply, and if they apply, and how the Auditor General said there was not approval from the finance ministry, and they go for it, that means they know of what was wrong, but intentionally went for it. They should have asked whether it's been approved for them to go apply for it. If they approve, then it's okay. But once the thing is not approved and you go for it, then it's, and these are people who are to protect us from public issues. And if they themselves are going in that way, where are we heading to? Have a blessed morning, my sister.
Have a blessed morning to Sami. That's Sami from Nima. And I think Sami will be our last caller, Benjamin. So here we have it. John Mensah is asking, why should we pay more for the hiked price? And this is about the tariffs and what you may be paying for power. And he thinks this is excessive profiteering. But we've been told, actually, by the experts that over the years, we haven't paid the right amount for our utilities, and that's why we may find ourselves in the situation that we find ourselves in, having to go for the ESLA that will service our debt when it comes to energy and all that. Because right from the start, we have subsidized so much so that those producing or generating power and treating water are always at the end. The
subsidies, by and large, have been done away with. It's just the real cost of, the electricity, the water that we consume that has become problematic in recent times. But quickly going back to the bit about the judges, I think Sami Nima made a comment. The point was also made by one of our guests this morning that the judges may not necessarily have probed to find out whether the right processes had been followed before they had access to the vehicles, which maybe they should have done, but maybe they didn't. So
and then
we
again,
must cut them
the
some
question
slack as
is that if you're buying a vehicle of that nature for a certain amount, you get what I mean? But
I mean, some of the very small vehicles that we have on our roads, the very small ones, how much do even they go for to talk of getting
Land Cruiser
a V8,
or a Corolla or something of the sort? Well, Benjamin, we'll have to leave it here with the point of interactivity and also taking your calls. But we have a last call, I'm told.
Final
All
caller.
right, final caller. Let's go to Akimoda. Hello, Kwame.
Hello.
Hello, Kwame. Let's hear you.
If I'm calling from Akimoda, please.
Great to have you. Your last caller.
Right. Issue relating to the judges acquiring those vehicles. I want to understand whether the judges do not have the right to also go in for those auction vehicles. 1, 2, I don't know who is doing what and who is doing what. The auditor and the judges, according to the judges, they said they acquired those vehicles through legitimate means. But according to the auditor, the auditor said that they did not also acquire the vehicles through the extreme. So who is telling the truth here?
Right.
I suggest that in the issue of search liquor, the Auditor General and the judiciary should have discussed this closed door. Other than that, we end up instigating the public against the leadership of the state and the judges. These are the two sensitive institutions in the country. And if you keep on doing such things, by all means, it will, instigate the public against the leadership of the state. That is my humble suggestion.
All right, Kwame. So let's try and answer some of the questions that we can. Okay, so the first one is whether they do not have a right to purchase auction vehicles. Of course they do. What the Auditor General says is that, contrary to what is stated, they didn't get approval from the Finance Ministry. All right, so that's clear. Also, on the bit of what the response we are getting is, a former president of the Association of Magistrates and Judges has been speaking, and he felt that the Auditor General should have gone a step further to speak to the Chief of Staff. I don't know why, but there's a laid-down procedure that the Auditor General is running everything or the approvals by, and unfortunately, that was not done. On the bit of whether it should be done closed door or included in the report, I don't know about that.
I totally disagree. Now, of course, you must give the other party some hearing, but this bit about sensitive institution and closed door, those are the very things that foster corruption in the system. And so I would say that, yes, there are processes to be followed and there are hearings that are granted, but this bit about a closed door, this or that, I personally do not agree with. If the wrong thing was done, the wrong thing was done. And you're now on a closed door BBI.
All right, but we'll welcome your thoughts, and thank you so much for calling us all the way from Akimota. We wish you the very best of the rest of the day. Well, that'll be it from Benjamin and I, quickly wrapping up, but we have some news on Gobe and something.
Well, your favorite meals like Gobe and Kenke will become even more expensive if we do not help farmers buy the fertilizers they need before the planting season closes at the end of the coming month, September. Farmerline is supporting farmers by making affordable fertilizers available to them through a discount program. We're inviting you to also support us by donating 10 Ghana cedis or more to raise 1 million cedis to reach over 25,000 farmers this season. All you have to do, simply dial *887 *4444# to donate. Your donations will make a big contribution to food security in Ghana.
And hello, how about treating your family to a summer holiday in South Africa? Come journey to South Africa for a good time in our beautiful country. Get to know the locals and languages. If you're looking to let your head down and relax, or you're just in the mood for some fun, family-friendly adventures, South Africa has got everything you need. This summer was Zanila. Come decide and experience a holiday worth talking about. And hello Ghana, happy moment is here. Let's storm World Cup Qatar 2022 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma soft drinks and awake drinking water from Casapreco Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma soft drinks and awake drinking water. Text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780# option 2 and follow the prompt on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks and more instantly. Please don't waste any time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma soft drinks and awake drinking water, and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform. This advert is FDA approved. Remember, terms and conditions apply.
I'll see you in Qatar.
Sure, we will. And on that note, we say goodbye. We wish you the best. Up next is News Desk with Samuel Kujabris. Do stay.